A classic changed the shape. He'll really finish you off. What would happen? Someone has unleashed the...
Yeah, the one you're picking up? Just thinking about him. Gives me the willies. Yeah, a decade ago, Halloween night, he murdered 16 people trying to get to his sister. But his doctor, of all people, shot him 6 times. Then he set him on fire. Both of them nearly burned to death. Yeah, I'll be glad to see this one gone. Yes, indeedy.
Did Hoffman say anything about living relatives?
Yeah, a niece living in his hometown.
Do you love me, Rachel? Like a sister? Like a real sister?
Michael Myers. He's Jamie's uncle.
Every day is Halloween at Jamie's house, right, Jamie? Because your uncle's the boogeyman. Boogeyman, boogeyman. Jamie's uncle's a boogeyman.
We are talking about evil on 2 legs. Maybe nobody knows how to stop him.
Cookie woman.
Cookie woman. Cookie woman.
Dale's gas station, 5th and Main.
I'm never sensible if I can help it.
You guys want to come skinny dipping? Mikey and I like it in the car.
All clear.
Nothing above, nothing below.
We both know he's alive. But you know where he is. Why are you protecting him? I prayed that he would burn in hell. But in my heart, I knew that hell would not have him.
Hi, this is Tony O'Dell from Chopping Mall, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to The Hysteria Continues, episode 69. And do you know what that means, everyone? That means... Indeed. That means it's the episode of Love and Halloween. So it's a combination of sexiness and frights.
Oh, baby.
Yes. We are bringing you a special top 3 a little bit later, which is the best, the worst, or the sexiest sex scenes in slasher movie history. So that's our top 3 coming up. And also we, for the Halloween side of things, last year we did Halloween 1 and 2. And this year we are skipping over part 3, not because we don't like it, but because basically it's not a slasher movie. So we're going straight on to 4 and 5. So Erik will be introducing those a little bit later. Now, also, hopefully, I think we should be okay, but I don't know, is this going to affect you, Erik? There's going to be a storm of the century blowing through later.
It's quite windy out, yeah. But at the moment, it's okay.
Okay, is it going to hit
sunny.
Dublin?
I think it probably will.
Okay, because we've been warned it's going to be chimney stacks and stuff could come down. So, but hopefully it's not until about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning here, or maybe a little bit earlier. But so hopefully we can get the podcast out to you. And obviously we don't want a chimney stack landing on Erik like the Wicked Witch of the West. Do we, Erik? Do we, Erik?
No,
exactly.
Well, I think you do. I think that's what you're insinuating in your.
I am not. Honestly, I don't want that to happen. So we are probably going to sleep down. Well, just getting really paranoid about it. But anyway, I know you folks in America, you get a lot worse weather than we do in Britain. But when we get a gust of wind that's above a certain gust, then it's all panic stations. Everyone to batten down the hatches. So, but. Anyway, enough of that riveting weather talk. Let's talk a little bit about what we've been watching recently. Erik, would you like to go first?
Yes, I've been at Dublin's Horror-thon, which has been running since Thursday night, so I will quickly run through 3 I've just picked out. One is a giallo I watched last night called The Strange Colour of Your Body's Tears, which is a new film done by the team who did Amir. I haven't seen that film. Have any of you guys seen it?
I've seen that, yeah.
It's also the same team who did the O is for Orgasm segment, keeping with the 69 theme, I suppose, in ABCs of Death. So if you've seen that little short in ABCs of Death, you'll know what to expect, because Strange Colour of Your Body's Tears is that short extended out to 100 minutes. The film starts with a guy coming home and finding that his wife is missing, And that's as much of the plot as I could understand. The rest of the film consists of dreamlike, surreal imagery. Some of it is absolutely outstanding, and it's got a great soundtrack as well, which I think is kind of a jukebox selection of classic giallo scores, or else it's just somebody has done the score in a similar style to those 70s Italian movies. But I mean, visually and in terms of the audio and the soundtrack, it was great, but it was incredibly pretentious. The bits in between the stylized sequences were just dull because I just could not understand anything that went on in the film. There was people sort of trapped behind wallpaper. There was killers walking on the ceiling. There was a woman who took off her clothes and she was illuminated like a fluorescent bulb. I just did not understand it. I think it's one for the art house crowd. I haven't seen a mirror, but apparently it's more of the same. Justin, does that sound like a mirror to you?
It does, yeah. It was all style over substance, and it looked beautiful. And it did have original giallo soundtrack to old tracks. But yes, it always struck me as curious. It's that and is it Barbarian or whatever the sound studio?
Barbarian Sound Studio.
Yeah, and it's kind of the whole point of the giallo in the first place, where they were trashy crime novels. It was all about trashy, sleazy thrills, and that's why I don't really get. Although I quite liked Amir and Barbarian Sound Studio, I didn't really understand. They're not really grasping the nettle as far as what the giallo actually is. The giallo wasn't an art film. No. So I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously, with something like Dario Argento, it kind of sometimes, another Pupi Avati and people like that, it kind of went into the art film to some degree, but you always kept at its centre the fact that they were thrillers or proto-slasher movies. So, and usually, linear plot-wise, weren't they? The most outlandish is probably Argento's Inferno, was about as far as it went into that kind of realm of kind of art house. But I would like to see someone actually do one of these films with these beautiful visuals, but actually make a coherent thriller as well.
I think it would have been a close to a masterpiece if they had got some kind of plot, a deep red style plot in there, along with those stunning visuals and stunning soundtrack. But for me, a bit too arty, I think, for my liking. Although it was great to see it on the big screen. If I'd seen it on the small screen, I don't think I would have lasted the pace. Another slasher movie I saw was one called Discopath. I don't know if this has crossed anyone's radar yet, but it's a French-Canadian slasher movie. It starts out in 1976, and it's about a guy who goes into murder mode whenever he hears music because of past trauma. So it's got a fantastic soundtrack of disco music. It then, sort of maybe a third of the way through, shifts to 1980. So the music is very much kind of my era, maybe slightly earlier. It went down really well with the audience. I wasn't hugely impressed with it. It didn't have enough disco action for starters, as the title would have promised, although it does have a great murder sequence that takes place under one of those flashing light dance floors. But I couldn't get into it in the same way the rest of the audience did, but it seemed to be a lot of people's favourites of the festival so far. So it's called Discopath, new movie.
It's a great title.
It is.
I love the title. That's great.
Is it a slasher movie or?
Sorry,
is it a slasher movie? Or is
it is, but it's not a whodunit. We know who the killer is from the very start. He doesn't wear a mask or anything.
Okay,
so it's one of those types of slasher movies. But it is. And there's lots of girls in 1980 hot pants, getting their heads chopped off and things.
Okay,
so parts of it are fun. But it wasn't. It didn't really work for me as a whole. It did work in places, and there's a great disco soundtrack to it. The final one I'll talk about is one called The Human Race, which was one I was really looking forward to it because it sounded like a mashup between Cube and Battle Royale. It's basically 100 people are sort of going about their daily, everyday lives, and suddenly this white light appears, and they are transported to this race course. With rules that they have to follow or they'll die. The rules are they have to follow the arrows on the course. They cannot be lapped twice, and they can't step onto the grass that's either side of the path. And if any of those occur, their heads explode. So the concept is fantastic and a bit silly and outlandish, but the film itself feels kind of straight to DVD and has fairly bad CGI exploding heads. And towards the end, it has this dreadfully drawn out conversation between two deaf characters that really grinds the momentum to a halt. But I mean, it's definitely worth a look on the basis of the initial idea alone, because it is quite interesting. It's called The Human Race. I think it's an American film.
Okay. Well, that's all sounds good. I haven't seen any of those, but I kind of guess that's the whole point, isn't it, of the horror thong?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or not the horror thong, as
the famous horror thong. Yeah.
Thank you, Erik. I forgot to mention, we've also got a few segments to run throughout this, haven't we, Joseph? Do you want to tell us what these are? I might play one of them now.
Yes, this is our good friend David Mollet, a.k.a. BTK from the forums. He's basically roasted us. It's we're going to be playing it in segments because it's rather long. But yeah, you should play the first one.
Here we go.
It's the Roast of the Hysteria Continues podcast.
Oh yes, there will be balls.
This roast is brought to you by the following projects: Extra Grinds Horrors, The Body Count Continues, Cinema de Meep, Freaktown Comics, Hysteria Lives, The Night Before Easter, Sylvia Screams Analog, and the Fourth Wall Comic Book Shop in Wapakoneta, Ohio.
Good evening, Justin. I want to play a game. You are on Skype with Joseph, Nathan, and Erik. Only 3 of you will make it through this roast unscathed. Justin, in 10 seconds, the device around your fanny will explode if you don't choose one podcaster to take all the punishment.
Hey! Erik.
Live or die. Make your choice.
Erik.
Okay, I'll just assume you said Joseph because he sucks.
Erik. Oh, sorry. Did I already say that? I'm only joking, Erik. You know I love you. You know I love you. You know I love you. So, well, we've got more of that to come. Hopefully, yes. Well, yes, matron. Actually.
Excellent. Well done, matron.
Well, it seems a little bit rickety, Doctor.
Is it? Yes, but of course it's fairly easy to get it up. It's getting it to stay up. That's what counts.
Yes, we might hear a few more of those coming up. But before we get on to that, Joseph, what have you been watching recently?
Well, just one. I watched Mike Mendez's Big Ass Spider.
Ooh.
And, yeah.
What's
basically, it's about this guy who goes on this soul-searching journey to, basically, if you like, grabbers or trimmers, you'll like Big Ass Spider. It's about an exterminator trying to kill a big ass spider. The plot is really, thin. It's basically the government, somehow, they don't really go into it, but they harvest this alien spider from way out in outer space, and it ends up in someone's body, and then it explodes out of someone's body, and it starts growing exponentially over the course of the running time. And it's up to this exterminator, played by Greg Grunberg, who I really loved in this film, and this security guard to try to stop it. And that's pretty much all the plot. It's a lot of, lighthearted jokes and them basically trying to kill the spider, but the spider is killing random people. And there's some decent gore and some good, fun jokes. But my only problem with it, I mean, it's really short, so I had a good time with it, and it's lighthearted. But my only problem is that the CGI is really, really dodgy. I mean, at one point it looks, fairly realistic from like far away, but then they show a lot of close-ups of the spider killing people, and the CGI is just very bad. But if you can get past that, it's a fun little movie. I mean, if you like, the Tremors series, you'll like this.
Okay, is that
Does
the
the
one?
spider have a big ass?
He might, but
is that the one with the spider at the top of the tower?
Yeah, it's the building in Los Angeles, the bank or the city hall or something like that.
Okay. Oh well, that sounds interesting. I mean, I do like a monster movie.
Yeah, it's fun.
So you do like a big ass, don't you?
No, I don't, Erik. But I know somebody who does. Yes. What about you, Nathan? Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Joseph. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, right. Nathan, what have you been watching?
I saw the Carrie remake.
Oh, yeah? What was that like?
I really liked it. I know a lot of people don't, and for people like Joseph that hate the original, I would say avoid this one too because.
Wait a minute. I don't hate the original. I just can't watch the original as much as other people.
I thought you didn't like it.
No, it's just so depressing. It's not one of those fun movies. It's like a movie you watch once every 5 years, but it's so depressing I can't, enjoy it as much as a lot of other people seem to.
See, I enjoyed the revenge scenes. But this one, I thought, it's a good movie. I think that, had there been no Carrie in the 70s and they just made it now, I think people would have liked it. But I think the biggest complaint a lot of people have is that it's unneeded because, they do follow the original, pretty much. There's a few changes, but nothing, groundbreaking. But I really liked it, and I think the prom scene was handled really well, and I didn't even really mind the CGI, and I've seen people complain about that too, but I didn't really mind it. So, I liked it.
Okay. I've not seen it. Has it come out here, Erik?
Not for the end of November, I think. Yeah.
Okay, right. I mean, I kind of, I haven't got a problem with them remaking it. I mean, it is a bit lazy, but they remake, as I've said before, they remake all the Bond films. They're constantly, all the superhero films are pretty much identical. So it's always horror films that get ragged on, for want of a better term. With remakes, I mean, it can be lazy. Sometimes it can be done really well, but I never really bought. Is it Chloe Moretz as Carrie? Because she's too pretty, isn't she? Really. But certainly, I think in the book she's kind of like quite dumpy, isn't she? And spotty, and got greasy hair. Yeah. So you can see, and it's just you can see why they don't have someone playing that character who looks like that. But that would have been a reason for me to remake it. If you're going to actually do something that's a little bit more actually how the book intended, and to follow Sissy Spacek is a pretty tough job, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean,
plus Chloe Moretz.
What?
Chloe Moretz was Hit Girl and Kick-Ass, so she should be able to beat these people up.
Oh no! Yes, exactly.
She shouldn't even need her telekinesis.
No. I mean, I like her.
She does a really good job in the movie. I mean, she does a good job at acting, the character. But I think, a lot of people do have that issue, that she's actually pretty. And especially at the prom scene, when she's done up, I mean, she looks like she should be part of the popular girls group.
Well, that's the thing,
How was Julianne Moore? How was she?
Oh, she was fantastic, which I like what she did because she didn't try to mimic Piper Laurie's performance in the original. She kind of toned it down a little bit, but she was still crazy. So I thought, she actually did a really, really good job as Carrie's mother.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thanks for that. Nathan, anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay. Well, as we've got 6 of these roasting segments to get through, I reckon we should play another one before I get onto my recently seen. So here's Roast Part 2.
Joseph, let the roast begin. Alright, let's start out this roast with my recently seen. First, Joseph broke it down on the side of the road, again. Nathan, somewhere being handsome. Erik, naked on Skype. And Justin, piss-ass drunk on the floor, being eaten alive by cats.
That's every Saturday night.
And now, here's my big number 2.
Ew.
THC podcast. Yeah, it feels like I'm high on THC when listening to you guys. The hysteria continues. More like the fist area continues.
Erik.
How'd you come up with the name? Put your 2 websites together? I thought it would be called The Infrequent Updates and Board Crashes Continues.
Ooh.
How the hell did you manage to get 4 gay guys onto one podcast anyway? I think 3 of you are faking it, and 1 is so obviously really gay. Henson. Get it? Henson. Yeah. Joseph is so gay that he is a positive delight. I'd fuck him. Joseph's driving history is a bigger car wreck than my love life. Wait.
That's a big wreck.
When I first met Joseph in Maryland at Monster Mania a couple years back, he got piss-ass drunk right away. Then he proceeded to shake my hand over and over through the night. It was a bad night for wearing a glove on my penis. Haven't you seen the commercials? Never,
No, that did
never,
happen.
never shake a penis.
Oh.
Joseph is also a lot shorter and balder than he leads on. He's also queer as shit. Despite always bragging about being such a ladies' man, he is constantly sexting me in the middle of the night. And he claims he's an ass man, and yet he is always talking about how much he loves my big milky tits.
Mm-hmm.
THC, what is that, my bra size? Oh.
Oh, Joseph, you're getting quite a ribbing.
Yeah. Some of that was partially true.
I don't even feel I've been insulted yet.
No. Maybe your time will come.
Oh.
But, yes. Well, we shall see. There's another 4 of those segments to come up, so we shall come to another one shortly and find out who's going to be, fingered next.
Or roasted.
Sorry?
I do have to say he does have
spit style.
Yes.
Yeah. He does have milky tits.
Does he? Right. Well, that's an image we can all take to our graves. So thank you for that, Joseph. Let's okay. Well, I'm just going to talk a couple of things that I've seen recently. The first one, I bought the World War Z Blu-ray, which just came out. And it's basically, I don't know if any of you have seen it's basically the extended version, which has got more gore in it, more violence,
more Bobcat Goldthwait.
Well, no, it's got just more blood and spurting, and it's not like a Romero blood feast by any stretch, but it's a little bit more graphic than the one that played in the cinemas. Quite why, I don't know, but the version on Blu-ray is a little bit bloodier. And it still works. Just considering what a kind of clusterfuck the whole thing was supposed to be, I still think it works quite well as a movie. It's not perfect, but it's pretty spectacular. Has any of you seen it? Because I know Nathan and Joseph, you hadn't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
No.
And Erik, you haven't?
No.
Okay.
I'm zombied out.
No.
Yeah,
right, fair enough.
Me too.
So, well, there's that. Well, the thing that made me laugh about it again watching this is like you get right. It's if you've ever read World War Z by Max Brooks, it's kind of a pan-global kind of catastrophe, and all these scenes of kind of like battles in New York and in China and all around the world, India and they do a similar thing in the film, where they have this huge kind of thing in Philadelphia, the opening scene, the fall of Jerusalem, all these kind of things are kind of really spectacularly done, but they end up in Wales, outside Cardiff, and the only thing that's gone wrong there, that it looks they're walking through this council estate, an old lady looks out of a window, and the only reason there's been a zombie apocalypse is there's a milk cart on its side. That's the only evidence of anything going wrong in Wales. So there you go. Maybe the budget ran out, but that was that. I also saw they bought the Halloween 35th anniversary edition Blu-ray. I haven't listened to the commentary yet, but I did watch the documentary of Jamie Lee Curtis, which was shot by her sister and her husband. Have you seen that yet?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I was surprised. It was quite good. But I liked it. Yeah, it was quite. It was kind of a nice overview of conventions, and I think she came across quite. You got a feel for who she really is. But I seem to remember you saying, Erik, that on the Fog Blu-ray there was supposed to be more talk about the other films on something else, or what was that going to be?
Sorry, remind me of this.
On the Fog Blu-ray, she talks about Halloween 2.
She talks about Halloween 2, and she talks about it quite positively.
Yeah, and but then
she skipped over Prom Night and Terror Train quite quickly, though.
Yeah, and I thought there was it was just I thought somebody said there was going to be more on the Halloween disc. Of her
what I thought this was extra was going to be was the full Q&A, which goes on for about an hour, and it's available on YouTube to watch, but they only show a very tiny bit of it in this documentary on the Halloween disc.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's why I'm surprised they didn't put it on. Yeah. Okay, no, that was fine, but there was that. And lastly, just watched Varsity Blood, which Nathan Joseph talked about a little bit last time, which is friend of the show, Jake Helgren's new slasher movie, which is going to be coming out not until I think 2014 probably, so next year. It's his follow-up to Bloody Homecoming, which has been doing really, really well, apparently in sales. And this time he wrote and directed the film. And I think we talked about it last time, so I won't go into it majorly because I'm going to do a review for Hysteria Lives. And yes, BTK, I will be updating soon. But but it's the story of, basically, boil it down to cheerleaders and jocks going to a deserted farmhouse on Halloween night to party, and then being killed off one by one by their tomahawk wielding mascot. But it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's got the it has a few shortcomings because it's a low budget movie, but it looks fantastic. I think Jake's done a brilliant a job with it. It's probably got one of my favourite killer reveals and killer monologues I've seen in a long time. Definitely worth sticking around to the end for. So I'll speak a little bit more about it on the review on Hysteria Lives, which hopefully I'll have up by the end of the week. And if you believe that, you believe anything. But Erik, you've watched it as well.
I've watched it as well. Yeah, I thought it was good fun. I like as you say, the killer's reveal is good, and for me it was rivaling urban legend for sort of wide-eyed looniness. There's also a terrific line in there that I think we'll all be able to use in future, where a girl is getting amorous with her boyfriend, and she uses the line "bobbing for bananas," which was particularly appropriate, I think, for this episode.
Yes, and I like. She also calls her Lulu her cheergina.
I know. That was brilliant.
So,
for Cheergina, yeah. There's also lots of nods in it to various other slasher movies. Of course, the mascot is killer. Is from Girls' Night Out, I suppose you could say. The setting reminded me actually, coincidentally, of Halloween 5, with all the kids going out to the farmhouse for the party on Halloween night. And what is going on in the background?
There's someone dragging a body along the floor.
That's what it sounds like. Hello? Is everyone there?
That was me. I had to get rid of somebody by killing them, but it's okay.
Oh,
okay. Well, that's all right then.
In the race for school board president.
Yeah. I also noted in Varsity Blood. I also noticed little references here and there to certainly the first 3 Friday the 13th movies, which I thought was quite fun. I thought it was good. I probably preferred Bloody Homecoming, but I did enjoy Varsity Blood. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get Jake back on the show to discuss the film at some point. And I'm sure we can make that happen. So, well, that's our recently seen. So I think we should go into our top 3 in just a moment. So, as we said before, as this is episode 69, what could we do but do top 3 sexiest scenes? So, without further ado, I think we should start with Joseph's. And here's Joseph's number 3. Well, that didn't sound very sexy. What was that?
No. Perhaps the only good scene in Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, is the sex scene in the tent before the girl gets split. Ha ha. Get it? Yeah.
Joseph.
But, yeah, I was trying to mix mine up. I mean, I've got sexy / gory, and then it gets really cheesy, and then it gets even cheesier. So, yeah, that's about the only good scene in Jason Goes to Hell. So, and it's a sex scene, so I thought I'd include it.
Yes, no, it's good. A good inclusion actually, because it, like I say, probably is the only decent scene. It's a shame actually. When they did the remake, they didn't do. Actually, that's the kind of thing they could probably get away with now, couldn't they? In the remake. Today with R-rated movies, as far as kind of, the remake wasn't actually that gory, was it?
No.
I mean, they could really go for kind of Final Destination style gore effects, couldn't they? Have heads flying, chopped in half, limbs, all sorts of things, and they just didn't really do that, which is a shame.
I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more had they done that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's the whole point of Friday the 13th movies. Not the only point, but it's one of the major points, isn't it? Is the gore gags. That's what the audiences want. But that's what they used to want. I don't know what modern audiences want. I think us old gits probably want something different from horror movies than the younger pups do. Maybe
Catch Goo Goo soundtrack.
No, I think maybe back in 1983, 4 People did. but not so much now, Erik.
Just me then.
Well, it's just kind of just as a slight aside. Sorry to butt in, but it's just Patrick from Scream Queens posted this thing where they actually showed 10.
Yeah, I was going to mention
students.
that.
Yeah, they showed them Halloween for the first time and never seen it, the original John Carpenter film, and only a couple of them thought it was scary, but they all just laughed at it and thought it was stupid and wasn't scary, blah blah blah. And it just unfortunately is that generational thing, which means we're all doomed.
Well, I don't understand why they had to pick on Halloween. I mean, you could show them any film from any decade before they were born, and they're going to say it's not scary.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. It's just a shame. It's a shame, really. I think it's also something to do with the fact if you show a 20-year-old Halloween, they weren't even born in 1978, and so if they see the bell bottoms and all the kind of antiquated teen talk, those are things they can laugh at. Whereas if you saw that film around the time it was released, it wouldn't take you out of it so much. And I think it's only until you're a bit of a seasoned film watcher you can actually watch films without actually getting really caught up in those kind of details. Perhaps, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Joseph, sorry, I just hijacked your bit there. Is there anything else you want to say about that particular?
No, I do like that scene. I think it's a really good effect following a sex scene, and it's probably one of Jason's more memorable moments. And he's not really even in the movie all that much. So that's my number 3.
Okay.
Did you guys see the Crystal Lake documentary where they talked about that scene?
No, I haven't got to that bit yet.
Oh, I forgot. I was going to mention that.
He mentioned that the couple in the tent were a real life couple, and right before they filmed the scene, they broke up. Then they had to film the sex scene.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going to mention that I actually did watch all of the Crystal Lake Memories in my recently seen, but I forgot. But overall, I enjoyed it a lot.
Even the insults to Part 5?
Well, I didn't like that. I thought that guy was a goober, but what was his name? Jeff something?
Yeah, something. I don't remember.
I didn't like him, but overall, the documentary was excellent. Dan did a really good job.
Excellent. Good stuff. Right. Nathan, coming up next with your number 3. And it goes on and on.
God.
It's very sexy, though.
It's very sexy.
Yeah.
Are you touching yourself, Erik?
Yep.
Is it still going?
It's still going. You can talk over it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Nathan,
Oh, my God.
What is it from?
Why did you choose that clip?
Well, it's Night of the Demon, and
Yes.
it's kind of a cheat because the actual sex scene, she's making very small moans. It's like ooh ah over and over again, you know. But then her boyfriend gets killed, and then she seems like she's having an orgasm while he's dying because her screams sound like she's having sex. And Justin says that she looks like a guppy fish.
Says that about a lot of actresses. Yeah.
I do. Well, not only her and Dana Kimmel, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, true.
Yes.
Two is a lot, though.
2 is a lot. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Night of the Demon on the big screen with a drunk audience. That would be fantastic.
If ever a movie needed an editor, it's Night of the Demon. That movie is so long.
Yeah.
Like that zoom in on her eye during that scene that we just played takes forever. It's like,
well, it's
wow.
obviously the director thought he was the next Hitchcock, didn't he? So, but obviously he wasn't. But he did produce Cinematic Gold.
He's a cock, all right.
Right. Well, thank you, Nathan. Anything else you want to say about your number 3?
No.
No. Okay, Eric. Here's your number 3.
Stopped.
Yeah, I know.
No, I mean the truck stopped. That was great.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
No, I mean it.
I know. I do too.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
This is a really stimulating conversation we're having here.
Yeah.
Okay, Eric. What
Okay,
was that?
well, the audio for that clip wasn't, terribly good, but it's the visuals that are what would grab you in that. That's from Mirage, which is a 1990 movie, and that's the opening scene. There's a couple in a pickup truck having sex, and what's unusual about this scene is that what they've done is they put a weight onto the accelerator to make the pickup truck glide across this desert vista while they have a bonk in the back. And there's one particularly funny shot of the side view of the truck, and you can see the guy's arse rising and falling behind the side panels as he's giving his girlfriend a good sing to. It's not something I would recommend to sort of automate your pickup truck to drive across the desert whilst you have sex in the back. It can be quite dangerous, I hear.
You've never tried it?
Well, I did, and I broke my arm.
Did you?
Yeah, because the car hit a rock, or the truck hit a rock. Yeah.
Nathan will know that guy in the truck. It's Lemansky from The Shield.
Lemonhead.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Well, that's what I was thinking about in Varsity Blood with Bobbing for Bananas. And
Yes.
I was thinking that what was it? Is it The World According to Garp, where they have a blowjob and someone crashes into the back of them and she bites his penis off?
Ow.
I saw World According to Garp many years ago, but I don't remember that. Are you sure that wasn't one of your Spanish supermarket movies?
No.
They did the gag like that in Parenthood as well, where Steve Martin is stressed out about his kid. So Mary Steenburgen, they're driving home, so she offers him to give him head, and then later it shows that they've crashed, and the cop was like, "So how did this happen?" He's like, "Honey, you want to tell him?"
Does she spit his cock out at that moment?
She should have.
Should have. Yeah, that would have been funny. But anyway,
he's a wild and crazy guy.
Yes, the dangers of driving and sex at the same time.
Well, they weren't even driving. Of trying to automate the driving and having sex at the same time.
He's got like a cinder block on his gas pedal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you, Eric. Anything else you want to say about your automotive?
Well, I mean, just
okay.
Eric, I have a question for you.
Yep.
Do you play with your Buddha all night long?
Well, I'm a big fatso, so I don't have that kind of stamina anymore. But maybe for about 3 or 4 hours and then go to sleep.
Well, Buddha is a fatso.
Oh, Buddha. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, I want to play with your Buddha.
Oh, right. I thought it was just some kind of American slang term for a winkle.
Is it not? What is a Buddha? I know what Buddha is.
Buddha's the fat little god-like of peace and tranquility or something like that.
Yeah, me.
Of Buddhism.
Yes,
Buddhism.
But why would Erik be playing with that
because the song sounded like he was saying. The song in that Mirage clip sounded like he's saying, "Play with your Buddha."
Okay,
I think that's what he's really saying in the song.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're saying.
Okay, well, the sexiness continues.
Yes,
with my number 3.
We are alone, aren't we?
Michael's around someplace. Take off that thing.
Let's go upstairs.
Okay. Your hands are clean.
Look, Judy, it's really late. I gotta go.
Will you call me tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
Promise?
Yeah.
Well, that's the talking about Halloween a little bit later, but that's from the original Halloween, and perhaps the shortest sex scene ever in any movie. Although you don't actually,
it's so fast the camera doesn't even get a chance to go up and see it.
No, because it literally is over in a minute, and that's why I think Judith was brushing her hair when Michael comes up and kills her, because she had loads of jizz in it. I just don't think. What else? What other explanation could there be apart from?
Yeah.
Well, he whacked it out, and it was bukkake time, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And poor Judith didn't have a very good night of it.
Don't think
we've all been there.
Yes, we all have been there. So,
except Erik, he's bald, so he doesn't have anything to brush out.
My beard.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh.
You look like Santa on a Saturday night. A white beard.
Well, I'd be lying if I said no.
Right, well, fair enough. But yes, well, that was I thought we had to put that in. Just because it's the famous.
On the original commentary track for Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis says something like, "Oh, what a pig! The fastest sex in cinema history." And I think on the new one, I think she makes reference to it as well.
Okay, I bet. Yeah. So, right. Well, we know what's coming next, don't we? We haven't had this little kitty for a while.
If you're gonna ask, why is this, why is that? It's up to you.
Okay, Joseph.
Yeah, that was from Madman. You don't really get to hear any sex noises, but that's the song playing when TP and what's her name get in the hot tub?
Galen Ross.
Is her name Gail?
Yeah, I don't remember her name in the movie, but basically they just do this kind of spin around the hot tub over and over. And there's even one moment before they get in the hot tub where they lovingly kind of zoom in on TP's belt buckle that says TP. And it's supposed to be all sensual and sexy, but it's really, really funny and cheesy, and that's why I picked that number 2. It's very funny.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because is it Galen Ross, the actress?
Yeah.
I mean, she won't, but she seems to have disowned Madman. I wonder if that's because of that
she was
scene.
credited as Alexis something or another in Madman.
She obviously discredited it even before it came out. But, but I mean, I like Madman. I know it's a bit of a kind of controversial one, isn't it? Because I know you're not a fan of it. Is it you, Joseph? You don't like it, or?
I'm like kind of like. Well, Nathan used to hate it, and I used to love it. But the more we watch it, the less I like it, and the more he likes it. So we're kind of like doing a switch on it.
So it'll be an interesting one for us to do at some point, won't it?
Yeah. Well, I think someone did pick that for the perks off of the campaign. So we might actually be getting to that soon.
Okay, so that's coming up. Any thoughts, Erik?
I find that scene very romantic, I have to say, rather than sexy. It's like a little Mills and Boone moment in the middle of Madman.
Yeah. I like the song. It's okay too.
It is very sexy. It's very sexy.
And very, very swirly.
You're very swirly, yes. Well, thank you, Joseph. Nathan, I think it's time for your pussy.
Hey, shut up, will ya? You want to wake up the whole college hollering like that?
Oh, Kendall.
What do you have to make such a big production for? Are you crazy?
Oh, Kendall.
You want us thrown out? Boy, anyone would think you were in bed with Chainsaw Charlie.
Oh, Kendall. I'll control myself, Kendall. If we do it again, come back to bed, huh? Hey, no, why are you getting dressed? Oh, honey, where are you going? What if you gagged me, huh? I wouldn't make any noise then.
Okay, Nathan. The classic scene.
Candles.
Yes. From one of our favorite films, Pieces. And I have to say, after watching the original track with the subtitles, they changed her dialogue completely. So I'm like, that poor character, and in this one she sounds so pathetic, with, oh, please come back to bed, like I'll do anything. But in the original soundtrack, she's actually mad at him when he's getting up to leave. And she's saying something to him about how he's like all other men or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, they really changed her dialogue around. But I'm kind of glad they did, because this version's much funnier.
Well, I hope they didn't do that with smoking pots and fucking on a waterbed.
Actually, I think that was close to what they said in the original.
That's all right then.
Because that is the most beautiful thing in the world.
It is.
It is.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you still get to see Kendall's winky in both versions?
Yeah.
Well,
so enjoy, Joseph.
Wasn't it supposed to be, we talked about it, didn't we, whether or not the director said he wanted him to get up with an erection. But he might have been joking. No one really knows.
It looked like he had an erection when I was making the sound clips.
Oh, you were looking, Joseph, were you?
Yes, I was examining. I had a magnifying glass and everything.
Freeze frame. Right. Okay. Well, the sauciness continues now with Eric's number 2.
They can't be at a time like this.
Come on, don't stop now.
I can't.
Talk dirty, Frank. Talk
fuck.
dirty.
Tits.
Dirty.
Fuck. Tits. Screw. Oh, shit. I should have kept my leathers on.
Don't stop now, Frank. Don't stop now. Oh, come, Frank. I'm coming.
Yes, it's the electrosex scene from Slaughter High. I suppose even more fantastic than 2 people being electrocuted on a metal bed is the dialogue where she's asking him to talk dirty and all he can come up with is screw, tits, and the F word. I'm sure Justin can come up with more imaginative dirty talk than that. Can't you, Justin?
I'll do that off air.
Yeah. Ooh, fill me with your love wand.
You should hear what we don't air. Oh yeah.
So it's getting us all in the mood, Eric.
Yeah.
Might have to have a break in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've obviously covered Slaughter High, haven't we?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But that is a great scene and starring somebody from Emmerdale Farm.
Yes.
So, which makes it even more bizarre.
It does. Yes. I'm sure it's top of his CV.
Yes, I'm sure it is. So, anything else we want to say about that?
Just that I love his dirty talk.
Yes.
Screw.
Does anyone even say screw anymore?
No.
I don't think so.
Right. Well, thank you, Eric. And here's the last of the pussy for today.
You want to go listen to the avalanches?
Are you nuts? All right. Avalanches. Here we come.
Wait a second. I catch cold easy.
We've got the car, stupid.
Good fun for Eskimos.
I just went off of this mountain. What?
Mary and Pete!
What about
They went out to the car!
Be buried out there. Shovel, quick!
Anyone know what that is?
Is it?
Sounds like blood tracks.
It is blood tracks.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the scene where one of the hair rockers, where they're all kind of hair rockers, they run out to the car to have sex, and she's got like some kind of lycra, basically a strip of lycra across her clitoris, and not much else, I don't think, by the look of it. And an avalanche comes down. Their bonking seems to cause an avalanche, which is great. But obviously it's coitus interruptus, unfortunately for them. But I love that scene because when the avalanche is coming down, a woman's standing there and a lampshade falls from the ceiling on top of her head, like a kind of strange Chinese hat. So apart from that, it's another Blood Tracks is a film that is overdue. I think us doing, isn't it, at some point in the near future?
Mm-hmm.
You know that bears aren't allowed to have sex in ski resorts for that very reason.
Well, because of avalanches.
Yeah,
I can imagine. Yes. Yeah. Well, there we go. Well, that was. We're going to see if we can top ourselves with our next choices. And Joseph, here's your number one.
Oh, you're... Oh, no, what's the matter with you?
I forgot your first pick.
Yeah, well,
what was that?
I think we've discussed this one to death. It's a Nail Gun Massacre.
Okay.
It's basically this couple are having sex in the woods against a tree, and it goes on forever. And it's really gross because she keeps kissing his shoulders, and he's like got hair, like splotches of hair all over his shoulders, so she's getting hair in her mouth, and all you see is
Erik likes that.
Yeah, that's hot.
All you see is his ass pumping over and over, and then the director, kind of pans around from his ass to their sides, pans up, and he's like, well, this is a pretty good shot, but I think I'll go back and focus on his ass, his hairy ass, for a little while. And it's just disgusting, but it's hilarious. The dialogue, she's like, it's all yours. Floor it, put it in overdrive.
It sounded like somebody farted during that. Was that?
I think Erik just farted during
No, I thought actually in the clip. I don't know if you ever heard. I won't say her name because I don't want to get into any trouble. But there's a famous story about a BBC newscaster, female newscaster, who apparently said to someone at a BBC drinks function that she wanted them to take her home and fuck her till she farted. which and obviously I won't say what her name is. I'll leave that. Well, it won't mean anything to you.
Well,
America, but
the only one that's popped into my head is somebody I don't want ever to think about doing that.
Okay.
But does this person listen to the show?
Yes, they're one of our greatest fans. But I will. I might tell you off air.
Yeah.
But I won't. I won't. Obviously, we don't want to libel or whatever, slander anyone. So, Joseph, thank you very much. Nathan, here you go for your top one.
It's great. Thanks a lot. That was fun. Listen, you don't have AIDS or anything, do you?
No.
Great. See ya.
So Nathan.
It's my favorite one of all time because I love the fact that she decides to ask him that after they've had sex.
Yeah.
You don't have AIDS or anything, do you? And then there's a funny scene like while they're actually having sex, like he's like trying to put his arms on her and stuff, and she's like slapping his hands away, like just don't touch me.
What is it from?
Sleepaway Camp Part 2.
Oh, right. I haven't watched
the
it.
amazing Sleepaway Camp Part 2.
Yeah, they try to have sex in a toilet first, but then Angela breaks it up, so then they go out to the woods. And
it's very classy. Very classy move, having sex in toilets.
Yes.
Our forecast calls for flurries of passion followed by extended periods of getting it on.
Well, the sexiness continues now with Erik's number one. So thank you, Nathan. Here's your big number one, Erik.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Your tits are stupendous.
Wow, you really know how to make a girl feel special, huh?
That's what I do. Your tits are fucking just so juicy, dude.
Okay, Erik.
Well, surprisingly for me, a film that has been mentioned and a film that I don't really like, but that's from the Friday the 13th remake from 2009. And that's, God, I can't remember the character's name, but he's the awful, arrogant, horrible one whose father owns the lake house to go visit. But he's having sex not with his girlfriend because he's annoyed with her, so he has sex with some big-boobed blonde instead. And yes, some incredibly awful yet brilliant sexy dialogue there, like your tits are stupendous. They'd fucking win in a fucking titty contest. You've got perfect nipple placement. They're so
I think he
firm
called
and
her a
juicy.
dude as well, didn't he?
Sorry?
It sounds like he called her dude. Like he said, your tits are wonderful, dude. I don't know, maybe I did.
That would put a whole new perspective into it, wouldn't it, really? Yes.
Could have been one of them lady boys from Bangkok.
Bangkok, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, so whoever thought that Friday the 13th would feature in a top 3 of mine, but there we go. As in the remake, I mean.
Yes. We're probably not going to be covering the film on the podcast anytime soon, are we?
No.
Although we keep talking about it, so...
we have to get through all the originals first.
Well, that's true. We might come to it. Time we get to it, they may have even been the sequel to that film.
Yes.
Because it's supposedly coming out sometime in the next couple of years. But thank you, Erik. And here, lastly, is my number 1.
Turkey that. Eat it up, Johnny.
What?
No.
What, stripped?
No. Play with his butt.
I'm not playing with your butt.
Oh, if you're not, who is? Hey, you guys okay? You're sick, Barney. You felt my butt. Hey, I thought it was Tina's.
You scared the hell out of me, Barney.
Yes, that was from the incomparable Evil Laugh, which is full of great sex scenes and great dialogue. And I have mentioned that before on the podcast because it is a riff on the Whose Hand Am I Holding from The Haunting. And the character had somehow made a hole in the bed and just comes up while they're having sex, and the guy's on top of her. Unusually for a slasher movie, that he's fully naked. I don't think she is. So you see his butt, and this hand comes up, starts massaging his butt while they're having sex, and he thinks it's her. And it's not, it's this person. But then he says he thought it was her butt. But I think you'd probably be able to tell the difference between a lady's bottom and a men's bottom, wouldn't you, Erik?
I wouldn't know, to be honest.
Well, I would imagine you would. But anyway, so yeah, much hilarity happens after that, as you hear from things. So that was the sexiness continues at the Hysteria continues. But should we get onto the horror, Erik?
He butchered 16 people trying to get to his sister. He was shot and incinerated, but still the entity that Dr. Sam Loomis calls evil on 2 legs would not die. Tonight, Michael Myers has come home again to kill. This time, Michael returns to Haddonfield for Jamie Lloyd, the orphaned daughter of Laurie Strode, and her babysitter Rachel. Technically her half-sister, I think this blurb should be corrected. Can Loomis stop Michael before the unholy slaughter reaches its innocent young niece? And that's from the back of the most recent Anchor Bay release of Halloween 4. Over here in the pre-Baby Jesus days of the 1980s, myself and Justin, I'm assuming, had to wait a full year for this to arrive in cinemas. It opened in October 1988 in the States, but it was October 1989 before I got around to seeing it in the cinema in Manchester, actually. It arrived with a lot of decent reviews behind it, and I was really looking forward to seeing it because I still am a big fan of the first 2 Halloween movies. But what I saw that night was one of the biggest cinematic disappointments of my life. I mean, it starts promisingly enough. It's got a very atmospheric opening credit sequence that captures, the real sort of essence of Halloween with lots of autumnal twilight shots. But sadly, that's as good as it gets in terms of atmosphere, as the rest of the film, in my opinion, is kind of a joyless, thrillless, suspenseless, made-for-TV looking effort. I just find the whole thing really drab and boring, to be honest. Jamie and Rachel are 2 of the least interesting characters in the entire series. Not the fault at all of Danielle Harris or Ellie Cornell, who are perfectly fine, but the script is just absolutely lacking in every department. Everyone praises this sequel as kind of a return to the style and feel of the original John Carpenter movie. I couldn't disagree with that statement more if I tried. The only thing it has in common with the 1978 film for me is that it holds back on showing graphic violence, but that's it. The first film had interesting characters, it had an eerie feel, it had an ethereal killer who seemed to sort of glide from place to place, almost as if he was a ghost, whereas in Halloween 4, he's just kind of a disinterested-looking stuntman in a cheap version of the iconic mask. I think the film has an opinion that it's far superior than it actually is. I mean, for me, the film is stupid, but not in a good way. And the film gets just more dull and monotonous as it goes along. The script is a patchwork of people shouting Jamie or Rachel. And if you don't believe me, have a listen to this clip. Justin, could you play the Jamie Rachel mega mix or whatever I called the audio clip?
Is it the mid-show Halloween? Yes.
That's it.
Jamie! Jamie! Rachel! Jamie! Rachel! Jamie! Jamie! Rachel! Jamie! Jamie! Rachel! Jamie! Jamie! Rachel! Jamie! Rachel! Jamie! 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 Rachel! Jamie! 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 Jamie!
Yeah, well, see, that's exactly one of my problems with the film. It's just that the script feels really hurried, and I know when we get into the background we'll probably discuss that more. Also, Donald Pleasance, he's wasted in this film. He comes across as kind of a grumpy pensioner rather than someone who would be capable of stopping Michael Myers. I mean, I think Donald Pleasance's performance is a bit too over the top for my liking. The only thing that perks the film up is Kathleen Kinmont when she shows up on screen, because her role as Kelly Meeker is a much more traditional slasher vixen, and she's great fun when she's on the screen. One thing I will agree with is that the ending is really strong, but as I said, this was pre-Baby Jesus days, so I had to wait a full year to see this, and by the time it arrived in cinemas, I'd already read about Halloween 5 and Fangoria, so I knew how Halloween 4 ended, so I didn't get that kind of shock value from it. Having said that, it is still pretty strong, but I don't think there's any way they could have followed that thread of Jamie being an evil character without it turning out quite ludicrous. So I'm glad they didn't run with that line, that storyline in part 5, to be honest. I was listening to BBC Radio 5 recently, and they have a film critic there called Mark Kermode, and I'm just going to borrow something he said. He was talking about the movie Diana recently, and I'm going to apply his logic to Halloween 4. If you bear with me, this will make sense. He said the problem with Diana was that it was not a 1-star film, it was a 2-star film, and that's the problem with Halloween 4. It's not so awful that it's fun, it's just boring and dull. It's a 2-star movie, and I'm sorry I can't be more positive about Halloween 4, but it's a film I've never warmed to at all. So I'm going to hand over now to go on, Justin, tell us your thoughts on Halloween 4.
I probably like it a little bit more than you, but I think it's one of those films, with each time I watch it I become less enamoured with it. And its problems become more and more apparent. I mean, I think one of the things that even more so with part 5, which we'll talk about, is the fact that they completely fuck up the mask. And this is one of the issues. I think I read someone said something somewhere, and they said even if they just buried that mask for 2 days, it would look better. It just looks, I mean, it's understandable within the limitations of the script that Michael Myers gets a mask from a toy store, and so you can understand it might be a different mask, and there's more excuse for that than in part 5, which we'll talk about. But having said that, he might as well have just chosen another mask completely, or a clown mask, as they talked about using the original. But no, they just get this very, very white mask, which doesn't really... It just looks like a bad imitation of the mask used in 1 and 2, and really there was no excuse apart from laziness and cheapness on the part of the people who made the movie that happened. And it just kind of completely... It's just that one detail that just takes me out of the film all the time. I'm always looking at a mask and thinking, that's not Michael Myers, or that doesn't look like Michael Myers, and I think that's one of the problems. I really like the I think it's bookended by quite strong pieces. I think the opening is very atmospheric. The ending is good. I like the stuff when they get to the house. I like the fact that I think one of they talked about the film originally, and they were saying that the idea that all the characters do intelligent things within the film, or most of them do, which is kind of barricading themselves into houses and things like that makes it scarier. And I think that would be the case if in a better film, because they don't do the stupid, like, I'm just, I'll be right back, or I'm just going to go outside and investigate that strange noise. They do all the things to try and stop themselves getting hurt. I mean, it has some good things, like the rooftop chase, I think is pretty good. I think Ellie Cornell as Rachel, I mean, she's obviously a very nice woman, and she's likable, but she hasn't got the kind of charisma of a Jamie Lee Curtis, and she just is a bit drab. It's kind of like the film itself is just a bit drab throughout. I mean, she wears that kind of really unflattering Mrs. Voorhees jumper towards the end of the film. And I love the bit where she shouts at Michael Myers, "Leave us alone, leave us alone," like that, in the most ineffectual way. Like, that's going to stop him. Of course, that's not going to stop him.
It didn't work in The Initiation either.
No. I also thought what was strange, actually, and I wondered if there was some issues with the film, was normally when you set up teenage characters in a slasher movie, you kill them, or at least find out what happens to them. Bar Brady, who looked a bit like a werepig, you don't really see what, and Kathleen Kinmont, you don't. The other characters, like her friend who drives her somewhere, you never see her again. You don't see the other people, the teenagers that were in the drugstore when they're choosing Jamie's costume. And so I would have thought maybe they could have turned up in part 5. Maybe that was the idea, but no, they just don't. You never see them again, which struck me as odd. I mean, that's why, and again, it's probably a generational thing, but that's why. If you look at something like Halloween 1 and Halloween 2, for a long time was quite derided. People didn't, always thought it was a poor relation to Halloween. But I think its kind of reputation has grown over the years. But certainly, when you compare the look and the everything about Halloween 2 compared to Halloween 4, is Halloween 4 looks cheaper, and it just looks, it's not as cinematic at all. Which is a real shame. I do admire the fact they, unlike in part 5, which we talk about, they actually went to the trouble of making it look like Halloween. They painted pumpkins, didn't they? And they imported painted leaves and did all these kind of things to actually make it look like Halloween time. Whereas in Halloween 5, they didn't even bother with that at all. I thought Michael Myers wasn't scary in this. And towards the end, although the end is good, but it's kind of like you've got Michael Myers standing there like with no neck, because I think the stuntman who played it had to wear his body armor or something underneath to make him look more imposing. But what actually made him looked like he had like Joan Crawford's sort of shoulder pads on at the end, which is really bizarre. And the other bit, which the last thing I was going to say on it was the scene. And this goes to show that kind of perhaps where you could say the laziness or the kind of cash grab behind it was the scene that's pointed out of the when Michael Myers pushes Loomis through the window at the school. That Michael Myers has a blonde wig. He's got blonde hair. And apparently that was the original mask they were using, and then they didn't like it. I mean, how bad that would have to be to actually go for the mask they went with. But the fact is that they didn't actually bother reshooting that. They actually thought audiences would buy the Michael Myers had got a spare mask in his, it was day wear and night wear or something. He was going to swap over and have the blonde look just for just to be fashion forward and mix things up. It was just a bit bizarre. But overall, I don't hate it. I think it's got some good stuff. I think towards the last half an hour, I think it's quite exciting, and I think there's some good stuff going on. But it's not as good as it could have been, but it's not nearly as bad as some of the later sequels.
You see, I don't know. I think the later sequels probably are better than Halloween 4, but that's probably just me. Interesting about those characters you mentioned that are introduced at the start and then they never reappear. I think that girl who drives Rachel and Jamie to the drugstore the character name is Lindsay, so I'm assuming it's Lindsay from the original movie
Wallace.
Grown Up.
Okay.
Because she says she says to Jamie her mom used to babysit her when she was young and blah blah blah. It is a glaring thing that these characters are introduced and then never appear again.
Yeah,
bizarre. And also one thing that bothers me about Halloween 4 is that scene where Michael Myers is killing all the guys in the back of the pickup truck and the driver doesn't notice, and people even standing in the pickup truck don't notice that the person standing behind them is being killed. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, let's see if there's any more defense for Halloween 4. Nathan, what do you think?
No defense here, I'm afraid. I'm like Justin. I don't hate it at all. I actually think there are a lot of good sequences in there, but just for the most part, I'm like you, Eric. I just find it very bland. I mean, the heroine, like you said, nothing against, Ellie Cornell. I think that she's a great actress and everything, but I mean, the character is just written just so bland to me. Like, I just didn't care. I don't know. Like, I couldn't see me going back and rewatching Halloween Halloween 4 the way I would like Friday the 13th, 1 through 7. I could just rewatch those all the time and never get bored. But Halloween 4, I just can't see myself watching it again for a long time. I don't know. It's just boring. I don't know what else to say. I find it kind of a boring film, and to me, I don't dig my slashers.
We don't,
even the awful ones that I hate, I at least get some entertainment out of them.
Yeah, but there's precious little entertainment value, I think, in Halloween 4, personally.
And see, and I know people are going to come at me with, oh, well, you like Crazy Fat Ethel too, blah, blah, blah. But I laugh at that movie, and that movie had a $10 budget. You can't compare that to Halloween 4. It's an established series and has they had millions for the budget or close to it. I don't know what the budget was, but they had plenty of, money. They could have made a very decent, entertaining film. But for one bright, shining moment, I have to say I do agree with you that Kathleen Kinmont's Kelly was great. Maybe I'd have liked it more if she was the heroine.
Yes, because she was spunky, I suppose, is the word. Yeah. Joseph, do you have any love for Halloween 4?
Not really. I pretty much agree with you, Eric. I think, I watched it Friday, and I really don't remember much about it. I've never really liked the Halloween series, bar the first two. I love the first two, but after that, I just lost interest. And watching it again, it's the same old story. I found a lot of it so boring, and I did not care one iota for Rachel or Jamie. Yeah. And the last part of the film feels more like Assault on Precinct 13 than it does a slasher film. It's like a siege movie almost, with them boarded up in the house. And there's some effective suspense sequences, particularly the rooftop thing that was already mentioned. But even then, I didn't really care one way or the other about the characters, so it kind of lost some of the suspense there. I really do love the ending with Jamie attacking her stepmother and then, basically becoming the new Michael Myers. I am kind of glad they didn't go that route with the next movie, but I think it's a pretty good shock that you don't really see coming, and I like that. But overall, I don't really remember much about it. I just watched it like a couple days ago, and it's already out of my memory. I have no interest in going back to watch any of the Halloween films, aside from the first one or the second one, and I probably won't ever watch it again unless, if I can see that on the big screen, I would give it another shot then, but I just find it, dull and repetitive. That clip you played of Jamie, Rachel, Jamie, that pretty much sums up the whole movie. It's like a Poltergeist 3 moment where everyone's calling out their names over and over and in place of, dialogue. I did like the Kelly character, Kathleen Kinmont. She should have been the central focus of the film, but I just find Rachel so dull and lifeless. Sorry, Halloween-ophiles. I just don't care for Halloween 4. I'm afraid.
Well, that's 3 definite thumbs down and 1 sort of thumb downs for Halloween 4. Poor old Halloween 4. I did see this on the big screen last year at the Horror Thong, and it did not improve the experience at all one bit. I only went because Danielle Harris was doing a Q&A for it as well, and she's lovely and she's really nice. Oh, but the film, even on the big screen, is just boring. Oh, it's like a Lighthouse Family B-side.
And Kathleen Kinmont's not in it enough.
No, that's a big problem because she is brilliant. She is really great.
She should have been in it more.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I'll just give them props for, they did care enough to make it look like Halloween, and they had some production values behind it. But
I actually do agree with you, Justin, about that. I think that, they did put care into that, the scenery and stuff. But then to me, it kind of goes back to what Erik said. It's basically a 2-star film, it's not cheesy enough, because they actually did put some care into it, but they just didn't, I don't know, make an entertaining film. So I would also say it's a 2-star film.
No, fair enough.
And there are moments where Donald Pleasance is standing around just he has this look on his face like, why am I here? I mean, I hope the check clears. I mean, this is poor Donald Pleasance. He has so much talent, and he's so good in the first two films. Here he's just like an afterthought, like, well, we got Michael Myers back, we might as well bring him back. And he just doesn't really have much to do but, scream and yell and kind of just wait for his cues to do something. It's just a shame.
He does. He comes across as kind of comical in it, I think. Not intentionally or not in a good way.
Yeah. Right. Although he was pretty happy to keep on making them, wasn't he? Didn't he joke he would stop at 22?
Yeah, and he said...
he left... go ahead. Sorry,
I was just going to say, he said at the time of the release of Halloween 4, he said, if the scripts remain as good as this, I'm happy to do loads of sequels. And I was like, are you reading the same script as we're watching?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say he left Fatal Frames to go do it, didn't he?
He left Fatal Frames because he died, didn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, I was talking about that little clip that y'all played during the Fatal Frames, which was, I got to go back.
The case of mine is just reopened.
Oh, yes. Good old Fatal Frames. Yeah. Now that's
which is much better than Halloween 4, by the way.
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
Where's Stefania?
Yeah. When you need her.
Well, she wanted to battle Michael Myers, didn't she? That would have been a sequel I would have watched. But well, shall we go to have a quick break for a little bit more of roast?
Yes.
Shall we? And then come back with some background on Halloween 4. Let's see who gets roasted this time.
Hey, Nathan. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the worst piece of shit ever made. Said no one ever. I have nothing bad to say about Nathan. He's so damn cute. I will talk about when I first met him, though. It was the same night when I first met Joseph at Monster Mania in Maryland. I knew they were going to be some great guys. That night, Nate sat on my lap, Joe helped me get a drink after waiting an hour at the bar, and then we shared a bed together and watched Dead Hunt in our motel room. The motel charged us for the damages and the semen stains.
Oh, Nathan.
Nathan, you dirtbird.
Oh, that's so not like me.
But you're not denying it, though, are you?
Well, I mean, I thought in keeping with the roast, I shouldn't.
No, fair enough. But
he never kisses and tells.
No.
Well, I think that what happens in where was the
Baltimore?
Baltimore. So what happens in Baltimore stays in Baltimore. I think it's probably the lesson learned from that.
Well, that's the stomping grounds of John Waters.
Exactly. Well, we have 3 more of those coming up, so who knows? I don't think anyone will be safe. But Erik, do you want to lead in on some background?
Well, I have some behind-the-scenes information here about it. John Carpenter was originally approached by Cannon Films to write and direct Halloween 4. Deborah Hill had planned to produce it, and they teamed up with Dennis Etchison, who had written novelizations, I should say, of Halloween 2 and 3. And they put together a script for Halloween 4, which Mustafa Akkad deemed was too cerebral. And then all the original team, John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, they all left the project after that, and it went to Dwight Little. Now, he met Mustafa Akkad in early 1988, and with a writer's strike looming, they needed to get a script together as soon as possible to begin shooting by April and then have the film ready for release in Halloween of 1988. So a script was delivered in 11 days, and oh my God, it certainly looks like it was. In the original draft, Sheriff Meeker was to be killed by the Shape when he attacks the Meeker house. A fire was supposed to start in the basement and burn down the entire house. So while Jamie and Rachel were being chased on the roof by the Shape, the house was supposed to be engulfed in flames at the same time, but that was cut due to budget issues. The famous mask flub. Now, Justin, you were saying that was the original mask they were intending to use in the film, whereas Dwight Little on the commentary track on the Blu-ray says that they found themselves, now this sounds less believable, they found themselves on location and they couldn't find the Michael Myers masks. They had to send a production team member to run out to a local store and find something as that close as possible to the Michael Myers mask, and they came back with the one with the blonde hair, which I don't think I believe. I think that your story probably makes more sense about it being the original mask.
Well, it seems a bit, it's a bit of a fuck up, isn't it, if you don't have the mask?
Completely, yeah. The thumb going into the head of the paramedic at the start of the film, that was added in post-production as they were having trouble sort of with certain plot elements of Michael's escape. The film cost $5 million, which is quite a lot considering how cheap it looks, if you ask me.
Especially in the late 80s, that's a lot of money back then.
Yeah. And it made $18 million, and it was number one in the US for 2 weeks in the box office top 10. But $18 million doesn't sound like that was about the average. That was about what films like Friday the 13th Part 7 and 8 were making, and they were deemed to be failures. So I don't know why Halloween 4 making $18 million was considered a huge success. I don't know, maybe somebody else.
The Friday the 13th movies would have been made for less than that, wouldn't they? They've been made for about $2 million.
I think so, yeah. That's about all I have for background. It was filmed in the Salt Lake City area, obviously, which is, I suppose, a change of location from the first two, which were filmed in California, I assume, were they?
Pasadena,
yes, they were, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have anything, Justin, on Halloween 4?
You've covered most of the stuff I had. The only thing I had was that Jamie Lee Curtis declined to come back, but she was offered a role, which may be the reason why, unless she was going to be playing the Ellie Cornell character, as in not playing her, but as in a replacement for that kind of type of character within the film. But obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis probably, I don't know where her career really was by 1988.
It was the same year she did Fish Called Wanda, so she was really on the up. She was peaking.
Yeah, so she wouldn't have wanted to go back to that, would she? It wasn't really until she did Mother's Boys, was it? And she started flirted with that, and obviously the later Halloween films that she kind of. Or Blue Steel had a little bit of a kind of stalker stuff going in it, but she didn't really. She did definitely try and put that behind her, didn't she? Mm-hmm. But apart from that, there's nothing else. I think you've covered everything. Apart from I thought Ellie Cornell, who's really nice, but she's only 24 in this. But I thought she looked older.
Do you?
Yeah,
I thought she looked about that age.
Well, maybe, I don't know. She just seems so dowdy for a teenager.
Well, true.
Well, not obviously a teenager, but playing a teenager.
Yeah,
so no wonder the werepig went after the big-titted blonde.
Yeah,
but
his face was so scrunchy. I couldn't believe it.
I know. He had that real kind of 80s hair as well, didn't he? And that kind of scrunchy face. Poor man. But what can you do? That's the 80s.
Nathan or Joseph, do you have any behind the scenes on Halloween 4?
No. The only thing I have is it's not really behind the scenes, but we watched Halloween 4 like in 1990 or something at a relative's house, and my cousin had a Michael Myers mask, and during the scene where they're climbing out onto the rooftop, he climbed out his bedroom window and stood at the living room window and kept tapping on the window, and my uncle, who's afraid of everything, said, "Can we stop this movie? I hear something." And everybody's like, "No, there's nothing. It's nothing." And so he finally just walked over to the window, and he just saw my cousin standing there in that suit, and he just jumped back 20 feet and screamed like a little girl. But it was during Halloween 4.
You pesky kids.
Yes.
Yeah, it was one of those pesky kids moments. But that's all I have. I couldn't be bothered to find anything. I just didn't. I mean, what can be said about the Halloween films that hasn't been said before?
True. Yeah.
Right.
Well, Dwight Little went on to direct The Phantom of the Opera the following year with what's his name, Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Now I saw that in the cinema at the time, and I remember enjoying it, but I haven't seen it since, which is now nearly getting to 25 years. So I'd be interested to revisit that. But I do remember thinking it was a much better film than Halloween 4.
Okay. Right. Well, that is Halloween 4. But as it's a special double bill, do we want to jump straight into Halloween 5, or do you want another roast?
Let's roast real quick.
Let's roast. Okay. Let's see who gets it this time.
Let's move on to Erik. Let's talk about Erik. Hey, Erik. Say oi.
Oi.
I love that. I haven't communicated with Erik much. He's not on the board that often, but because of this podcast, I love the guy. He's hilarious, can take the insults and dish them back out. I would love to meet him someday and break him off a piece of my Kit Kat bar.
Ooh.
No. I meant my anus.
Oh.
Alright, next I got written here, BTK is so dumb, I bet he didn't like Fear of Clowns 1 and 2. Wait, who wrote that? What?
Well, yes.
I don't get it.
You don't get it? I think I'd get it.
Oh no! Wait! I know what's going on. Okay.
Okay. Right.
It's still early for me.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, there you go, Erik. That's an offer you can't refuse.
Definitely an offer I can't refuse.
Yes.
Never refuse a chunky Kit Kat.
There wasn't.
Although, when you said you like Twix better, my whole worldview of you has now been shattered.
Oh, sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
I like Twix better too. Twix is the one with the cookie crunch.
It's got coconut in it as well.
No, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
There's no coconut.
It's Seinfeld reference.
Oh. Well, I think it's probably time we go on to Halloween 5.
Okay, because hell would not have him, Michael Myers survived the mine explosion thought to have killed him. Wow, that's some serious heavy breathing by somebody.
Yeah, I know somebody's breathing heavily.
Yeah. I thought it was adding to the atmosphere. 1 year later, his traumatized young niece, Jamie, is horrified to discover she has a telepathic link with her evil uncle. And that Uncle Michael is on his way back to Haddonfield. But Dr. Loomis has a new plan to destroy the boogeyman in his childhood home, using Jamie as bait. Tonight, the carnage begins again. Michael Myers is back with a vengeance. Personally, I find Halloween 5 a much more successful movie than Part 4, but perhaps not for the reasons the makers intended. I mean, Halloween 5 goes overboard in every department and becomes a really fun train wreck of a movie. It throws in so many off-the-wall elements after the more straight-laced sort of plot of Part 4. I mean, firstly, you have Jamie. She now has a psychic connection with Michael Myers, you know, that the cops never question. They just, Jamie sensed this. We must go investigate. Then you have off her face on ecstasy, I'm guessing, character of Tina, who I think is brilliant, but I know she really divides people and she really rubs people the wrong way. But I think she's fantastic. The comedy police force, who are accompanied by honks and beeps on the soundtrack. Justin, I think you have a clip there, I think, of the comedy sound effects, just to remind people.
Yes. Which one is that? The Bart Simpson one?
No.
Sorry.
That later. Is there a comedy sound effects one? Don't worry if it's not there.
I would keep talking. I shall see if I can find it.
Loomis is even more ludicrous in this, shouting some of the most insane dialogue and acting like a madman, particularly whenever he's around Jamie. I mean, I'm surprised there isn't a restraining order against him. You have the introduction of that character, the Man in Black, which they never bother explaining, presumably because they thought Halloween 6 would be coming out in 1990, hot on the heels of the box office blockbuster that they imagined Part 5 was going to be. And the complete disregard for continuity in terms of the design of the Myers mask, which I think, Justin, you said before, looks like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. And the set of the Myers house, which has been completely remodeled from a normal sort of two-story American house. It's now a spooky Scooby-Doo-like haunted house for all of a sudden. Now, I don't think this one ever made it into the cinemas in Ireland or the UK. I seem to recall it just went straight to video. And when I first saw it, I understood why, because I really hated it. But 23 years on, I have to say that I quite enjoy Halloween 5. Part 4, as I said, was a bore-a-thon, and this comes as kind of a welcome relief. I mean, I knew not to expect anything approaching Halloween 1 or 2. So, I mean, Halloween 5, because it is so ridiculous and stupid and it has such a rushed look to it, that's what makes it far more entertaining, in my opinion. The character of Tina, as I said, and a lot of her bop-a-buying that people seem to hate so much, and I hated when I saw it first, and the comedy cops with their, you know, silly little music that plays behind them. I saw that and I thought, oh my God, this series has totally jumped the shark, although I didn't know the term jump the shark back then, obviously. There's just more action in the film. It's got a bit more gore, a bit more going on in the special effects department. You know, it's not wall to wall, but it's got something. It's, you know, K and B are more visible in Halloween 5 than they were, and I think it works well when it focuses on those sort of inverted commas teenage characters, Tina, Sam, and Spitz, and it works less well as in Halloween 4 when it's just focusing on Jamie, because again her character isn't terribly interesting. So I really, really do enjoy that first hour. Up until the end of the barn scene, I'd say. And then maybe the final half hour, it loses its way somewhat once all the teenage characters are gone from the plot. I don't think it's the most dreadful film most people claim it to be. I mean, I think Halloween 4 is worse. I think possibly Halloween 6 is worse. But I do completely understand why people wouldn't like this film. So I don't know what your guys' opinions are on Halloween 5, actually. So We'll find out now. So, Joseph, I'll go in reverse order this time. Joseph, what did you think of Halloween 5?
Halloween 5. I kind of enjoyed it just on that whole it's a train wreck level.
Yeah.
Some of the moments, like every time those cops show, it's like.
I've got the sound clip here. So
okay,
play that.
Clip.
All clear. Nothing above, nothing below. Think so.
Whoever thought that would be in a Halloween film?
Yeah,
That sound
exactly.
effects. I mean, come on.
Sorry, Joseph. Let's carry on. It's just I was desperately trying to find that clip.
But anyway, I didn't really remember Halloween 5 because, like part 4, it had been forever since I watched it, and I watched it right after part 4 on Friday, and I had a little fun with it. I don't think it's any great shakes, but I laughed a little bit, and I like most of the characters. I mean, I used to hate Tina, but watching her again, I had a lot of fun with her. I think she's if the movie's kind of stupid and silly to begin with, I don't think she's going to break the bank or anything. And I actually kind of liked her. I liked the scene where she's in the car with Michael Myers, and she's keeps telling him to stop the car because she's like, I want a pack of cigarettes. Stop the car. Stop the car. And he actually stops and lets her get out and go into the store and get what she wants. And when she comes back out and the cops show up, so he's like, okay, I better hightail it out of here. I guess this is before he became just a mindless zombie. Maybe he had some kind of a train of thought going on. But overall, it's dumb. I don't think I'll ever watch it again unless it's at the cinema or anything. But I had some fun with it. Definitely more entertaining than part 4. It's no part 5. It's of the series of Friday the 13th. It's no Friday the 13th part 5, but it does have that kind of bizarre, trashy, out there kind of comical edge to it, Friday the 13th part 5. Not on par with that, but for its own, it is the part 5 of the Halloween series. But for that, I enjoyed it, but not as a regular, scare fest. But so a marginal thumbs up from me.
Okay, what did you think of it, Nathan?
I probably liked it more than Joseph did. I don't like the stupid cops and that music. I don't know. I didn't like that at all. It just is not in keeping with a Halloween film. And I know the movie's kind of silly anyway, but that just is too much for me. But I love Tina. I think she's awesome. And I got to say, she's a much more interesting character than Rachel is. Hey, she might be annoying, but she's not boring. And I thought I know a lot of fans were pissed off about them killing Rachel off midway through, but I actually thought that was, quite a surprise. I didn't see that coming. And when it happened, I was like, wow, that was, pretty good. It's a pretty good scene in that film, actually, I think. Because, you think that everything's going to be okay because, you think she's out of danger and then, she gets killed anyway. But, I love the scenes with the teenagers, of course. And, I love the scene in the barn, and as far as the ending goes, I'm kind of in agreement with you, Eric. I kind of think the ending is, it's not quite as entertaining as the first hour of the film, but I did really love the scene where Jamie's in the vent or whatever and Michael's stabbing through it trying to get to her. I thought that was a really good suspense scene. But I don't like the ending to Halloween 5 though, with the mysterious man in black. I thought that was just kind of lame, but for the most part I do like the movie though, so thumbs up for me.
Now I have a question.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Halloween 6 in forever as well, but who did the Man in Black, I don't know if we really want to spoil it, but who did the Man in Black turn out to be? I don't remember.
Isn't he the leader of some kind of cult?
Yeah, it was like the Thorn cult or something like that.
Okay.
Because Michael Myers, you see, he's on his wrist, he's got like a thorn symbol, isn't he, in part 5?
Yeah, I remember that. I just couldn't remember what the deal was with the Man in Black, who we don't really get to see except for in silhouette, but I just didn't remember why he was introduced and what his purpose was. What's
the deal with the with the Thorn cult anyway? I don't even get all that.
Well, when they were making Halloween, this is a sort of behind the scenes thing, but they didn't know what they were doing with Man in Black in Halloween 5. Mustafa Akkad just said shoehorn him in because I want to have a hook for Halloween 6. So they didn't really know where the Man in Black was supposed to go or anything. So
I think I got it. I think that the cult members of the Thorn cult visited Michael in the mental hospital. And they get the hospital executives or doctors just let them tattoo Michael and stuff too, just for fun.
Yes. Justin.
You should see the tattoo on Michael's back. He's got a big butterfly.
All right, see, you have a tramp stamp. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, tramp stamp.
Yeah. Justin, what do you think of Halloween 5?
I've got
tramp stamps. What do you think of them?
Yes, well, I've got mixed feelings about tramp stamps and Halloween 5. It feels like a cheaper film even than Halloween 4 to me. I mean, it actually was a cheaper film. I think it was made for $3 million, so it was, $2 million cheaper. But the thing that kind of sets a tone again for me with it was it leads on from the end of part 4 directly, doesn't it? But it's interesting, it's got a few scenes that weren't in the end of part 4 that they'd obviously shot with a view of making part 5. But the fact is, this one's got even less excuse for not using the same mask, because he falls down the lift shaft, and when he crawls out into the river, he's got a different mask on.
Yeah.
So did he have one in his back pocket? I mean, and the mask in part 5.
Well, I can explain that.
Worse.
The explosion from the dynamite warped the mask slightly to make it look different.
Make it look like Mr. Burns.
Yeah. Or, as you say in your review on Hysteria Lives, like Emo Phillips.
Yes. Well, it just kind of sets a tone. I mean, the fact is, there's some kind of mad genius to this idea that Michael Myers then gets adopted by this kind of old tramp with a parrot, and nurses him back to health for a year, and then Michael Myers wakes up and kills him. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense really at all. But it's in some ways I quite like that opening, because it really smacks of someone sitting around at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking, fucking hell, I've got to write this bloody thing. What the hell am I going to do? And just coming up with something and saying that'll do. But I think Danielle Harris is really good in these movies. She doesn't have much to do. I mean, she has a bit more to do in this one, although it gets incredibly silly, with the whole, she had the psychic link kind of just pushes it into a realm. You could argue that Halloween films have always been supernatural, because obviously Michael Myers is the boogeyman, and it does the original novel links it back to Sam Hain and sacrifices and spirits and things like that. So in some ways, shoehorning in a psychic angle isn't the oddest thing. But the fact that scene where Tina's buying cigarettes, and there's the beginning of the podcast, one of the clips you put in, Eric, was of the lady with the big cookies, and it's a lady with cookie tits, and she's going, the big cookies, and it's kind of like it is very, very bizarre. But I kind of liked when they get to the farmhouse again, and it's what it does have. Is, and I think they sort of said in the commentary or whatever, they were going for a slightly more European sensibility. It has kind of got a gothic sensibility to it.
No wonder you like it then.
Yeah, well, of course. But some of the other films don't have. It did get criticised at the time, and it's something that gives it a kind of slight, frisson or whatever danger, is the whole kind of child abuse thing, really, isn't it? The physical abuse of this Jamie with Michael Myers, her uncle, chasing her and stabbing her, and actually there's not many films where you have a child protagonist or character that is kind of pursued and put through so many physical and mental anguish in any film, let alone a slasher movie. So that in itself gives it a kind of a kind of something above the first film. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but it certainly gives it that slight difference. But I've got mixed feelings about it. The whole Man in Black thing, I think it's kind of, I hate that when they admit afterwards they had no idea what they were doing something, because you're sitting there thinking, oh, there must be something really interesting going to happen. They had no idea, and that irritated me. But I'd also vote for Tina and say that I actually quite liked her. She was hyperactive. She had that kind of, which you could see could rub people up the wrong way, but she was a kind of likable character overall, just very bouncy and full of sunshine and whatever she was on. But unlike, again, going back to that whole thing of the characters in slasher movies today, that you don't really ever get a character like that, do you, in a modern slasher movie who just really doesn't have a care in the world and is just like bounces around like Tigger.
Yeah. Like a character from Sesame Street, yeah.
Exactly, which is kind of in some ways quite nice. But then that was the kind of, in some ways, the innocence of the 80s, wasn't it? Which is a kind of sounds like a contradiction, but there was that those characters. So even by 1989, you could have those. I thought, towards the end, the scenes in the barns with the scythes and the pitchfork again had a kind of intensity that was missing from much of the rest of the film. But I just like most of you guys, I could watch Halloween 1 and especially Part 2 time and time again, but I did find both 4 and 5 a little bit of a chore to sit through, despite there's some good bits in them, but they're not films that I'd particularly want to return to very often. And also, I mentioned this in the last, we talked about Halloween 4, but the very fact is that they couldn't even be bothered to disguise anything to make it look like Halloween. One of the earlier shots were outside the children's clinic, I think it is it pulls back and all the trees are in full bloom, aren't they? They're all green. There's no leaves on the ground. There's nothing to indicate, apart from a few costumes here and there, and that they didn't even bother to try and disguise the season, which I think, unfortunately for me, as a fan of these movies, it feels like they just didn't really care. So, and I don't want to make any say anything against Mr. Vrackard, because but he was a businessman first and foremost, and obviously he had a love for these movies, but he probably loved the money they brought in, and it just didn't really feel that they were giving the fans what they wanted. They were making the films to make money, which is understandable, but not with the love and care that you would hope necessarily, and that's that's,
I was a member of the John Carpenter fan club, which was a British-run fan club at the time that Halloween 4 and 5 were around. And I remember talking to the fan club, the guy who ran it, and he was speaking to Mustafa Akkad, and he just said bluntly to him, "I don't care. I'm going to keep making Halloween 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't give a shit."
Right.
That was his attitude, and you can kind of tell. I mean, I think that, you're saying it looks like they didn't care in Halloween 5. To me, it looks like they didn't care in Halloween 4 either. But just the silliness and the trashiness of Halloween 5, I think, make it a much more watchable film for me, even though neither of them are particularly masterpieces of any kind.
I have a question. The end of Part 4 where Jamie attacks her stepmother, I know they wrote that out in Part 5. I think they boiled it down to she did attack her, and then she's been having dreams. But how did they officially kind of worm their way out of that? Did she end up killing her, or
no,
is it just
the stepmother didn't die, and it was all blamed on her psychic link with Michael Myers. Sort of Michael Myers made her do it, kind of.
Right. Okay. I missed that because I remember at the very beginning. The nurse was like, "Oh, you're just having a nightmare again," and I thought, "Wow, was it just a dream?" But then later, it's like you attacked your stepmother, and they say attack, it didn't say kill, so I wasn't. I don't think they were too clear on.
Yeah, because Rachel says later that both her parents are out of town. So I love the way that on Halloween they just abandon Jamie, leave her in the hospital. Like, she can stay here in Haddonfield, but we're all going.
Well, especially it's the anniversary of one of the worst nights of her life, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
I think it's funny because it reminds me, sort of how in Halloween 2, like, nobody can find Laurie's parents. Like, it's like they've fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
If you had a psychic link to Michael Myers, what kind of fun would you have with that?
I don't know if I'd have any fun. He'd probably be making me kill people.
Well, you'd probably have fun. You could probably see through his eyes as he's killing that girl in Halloween 2 with the big baloobies. You'd probably like that.
See, I'm wondering, since a lot of this, I don't remember. I guess 4 takes place, 10 years after the second one, so I'm assuming Jamie would not have been alive, but let's just say just for argument's sake that she was a baby. I wonder if she saw, all the stuff he did when she was a baby, and she just didn't remember it.
The impression I get is that, if she's Laurie Strode's daughter, she was born after the events of Halloween 1 and 2.
Okay.
Which would have been in 1978, but you get she didn't have the psychic link, did she, until she touched his hand at the end of part 4? That's the impression I got.
It's more.
See, I thought she was Laurie Strode's like sister. I didn't think she was his daughter.
Who's doing that? Who's doing the heavy breathing?
Has Nathan fallen asleep?
I have not fallen asleep. I was laying my head down next to the phone and I was breathing like Michael Myers.
Okay. Oh. Right. As long as you're doing it on purpose, we just thought you might have gone into some kind of anaphylactic shock or something.
Catatonia.
Yeah, after feasting on nuts. So, Erik, do you want to give some background?
Yes. Okay. That opening sequence, actually, with the guy who babysits Michael for the year, again, as absurd as it sounds, that was, I suppose we all know this, was filmed, there was a different character, a guy called Dr. Death, who was a much younger character. He looked kind of like a sort of new age hippie type. He was originally supposed to adopt Michael Myers, but I don't know why that was removed from the film, but they reshot it with the older man. This began filming on the 1st of May 1989, which explains why it looks like summer, because it was summer for an October 89 release. So the filming and post-production was really rushed, and I'm assuming the script was sort of rushed as well, judging by some of the sort of lapses in logic, the many lapses in logic. Wendy Kaplan, who plays the wonderful Tina, she is the daughter-in-law of Robert Foxworth from Falcon Crest. And also in that Ants movie, I can never remember. I think it's just called Ants, is it? Or
I think she goes by Wendy Foxworth now, doesn't she?
Yes, she does, yeah. Because she's married to Robert Foxworth's son. So there we go. And she was also, at the time of Halloween 5, she was actually dating Greg Nicotero, the special effects dude. And speaking of special effects, did anyone spot, I mean, I've mentioned this a few times, did anyone spot the awful special effect of the pitchfork going through Spitz's body? No? Just me.
I saw it, but I didn't notice anything
seriously
bad about it.
Freeze frame it; it's dreadful. But I did like the scene where the awful bully guy gets the 3-pronged fork to the head. That was quite good, although it was very brief. But this IMDb says this one was made for $5 million as well, Justin. I know you were saying it was lower budget, so maybe that's wrong, maybe. But it made $11.6 million at the box office, which isn't that much of a disastrous drop-off from the $17 million that Halloween 4 made. So, I don't know. It went in the number 2 spot. Do you know what beat it to the number 1 spot in the box office that week?
Dirty Dancing?
No. Look Who's
Predator.
Talking. Look Who's Talking with John Travolta and Kirstie Alley. Oh. Yeah. It took about 2.5 times what Halloween 5 did that same weekend. So, yeah, the Talking Baby completely outshone Michael Myers' return. Donald Pleasance accidentally broke Don Shanks' nose. Don Shanks, who was playing Michael Myers, of course, in this one. In the climactic scene where he's beating him over the head with the beams of wood in quite a comical manner. Broke his nose. And also, here we finally get to the Bart Simpson clip. Bart Simpson has a cameo in Halloween 5, I'm convinced. Have a listen to this clip and listen to the voice that says, I got him, you got him. Justin?
Scissors. It's mine.
I got him.
Bart Simpson, anyone?
No.
Yes.
I think that is Bart Simpson. And it's got Mr. Burns as well. Basically, Halloween 5 is the origin of The Simpsons.
Well, I forgot, speaking of, cartoons, I forgot to mention, I don't know if you mentioned this during part 4, but they referenced Halloween 4 in Family Guy where Peter finds out that Tom Tucker, who's the newscaster, played Michael Myers under the stage name George P. Wilbur.
No way.
And Peter's like, Halloween 4 is my all-time favorite film, and he wants to get Tom Tucker back into acting, so he drives him out to Hollywood to try to reignite his acting career.
I've never seen that episode.
Yeah.
Cool. Justin, do you have any more behind the scenes of?
I don't. I think you've covered pretty much everything that I was going to cover, so no.
Yes. And Nathan or Joseph? No?
No.
Justin, do you remember this opening theatrically in the UK?
It didn't. No, it went straight to video.
Yeah. So
Halloween 4 was the last one.
Until H2O, obviously.
Sorry?
Until H2O came along in 1998.
Yeah. They said, I think Halloween 5 opened, I think they said in the documentary or something, or I somewhere read it was in France and Turkey or somewhere it opened theatrically, but it didn't open in Britain. It obviously didn't do that well in Britain. I don't know how well, but not enough. I mean, it's a bit like the Friday the 13th movies that after part 6...
yes, part 6 is the last one.
Yeah, the last one.
I do wonder why they called it The Revenge of Michael Myers, because what is he getting revenge against? I mean, he's going back after Jamie again. She didn't really do anything to him.
I know.
So
I think that's
getting his revenge?
I think that's just a case of that subtitle will do, kind of.
Yeah.
I think they're just in such a rush.
The whole movie is this will do. Let's just get this out here. So I guess it stands. The subtitle will be the same as well.
I can't remember. I think it was Mustafa Akkad in one of the featurettes I was looking at says he regrets rushing it. He said they should have waited till October 1990 to release Halloween, to get Halloween 5 ready for. He says that he thought things were too rushed. But I think, for me personally, that's what made it a much more entertaining film. I think if they'd taken their time and made another Halloween 4, I don't think I would have been that interested, to be honest.
Yes, I think they just should have called it the Halloween 5, the rehash of Michael Myers, shouldn't they? Really?
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be interesting.
The director Dominique Othenan-Girard, I was going to say maybe it opened in France because he's French, but he's actually Swiss. So, yeah. He directed.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say he directed Omen 4: The Awakening. I didn't know that.
That was a guy, because when I saw the credits, it said Dominique. I thought it was a girl.
No, it's a guy. It's a dude. Yeah. And he's actually, if you listen to his commentary track on Halloween 5, I think he's under the impression he's made a masterpiece. It's one of those kind of deluded directors' commentaries.
Okay.
Well, he did it in his own way. It's a masterpiece in some ways.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I could listen to all day long.
Yeah.
I think we're going to lose a lot of listeners because everyone hates Tina, and I think all four of us like her. So
yeah.
Also, a lot of people like Part 4.
Yeah. I mean, I'm bamboozled by the love for Part 4 there is. Because
I am as well.
I can understand.
I didn't particularly care for Part 5, but it's miles over Part 4 in my opinion.
I mean, I can understand why people don't like 5, but I just can't understand why people love 4.
Yeah.
Well, that was Halloween 4 and 5. And if you want to let us know what you thought of those movies, if you agreed with us, or you hated Tina, or you loved Part 4, let us know. And this here is how you can get in contact with the show.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com.
Okay.
I thought it'd be funny since we played that contact details throughout the year. I thought it'd be funny to re-record that with like Friday the 13th music instead, just as a joke.
But you didn't do it.
No. It just came to me actually, but it would have been funny.
Well, when we get to Part 6, maybe we could do that. I'm actually quite looking forward to returning to Part 6 because I haven't seen it so long.
I do not remember anything about that movie at all.
I can remember bits of it, but I still haven't watched the producer's cut, and I think it'd make quite an interesting show because apparently the producer's cut is showing in Los Angeles somewhere, which kind of at some cinema, which kind of hints that there may be a Blu-ray or DVD.
Is it showing in a decent version or in a Nightbreed, the Cabal cut kind of way with lots of
dodgy
VHS inserts?
I think all I saw was
Dan is there. Dan is screening it. Dan Farron's. I'm not sure what version he has, but I'm assuming he's kind of a stickler for having the best version possible. So it's probably a good one.
Yeah, because I have a copy of the producer's cut, but it's difficult to watch because the video quality is so poor on it.
Well, I imagine because Daniel Farron's, did he write it or what was his involvement with Halloween 6?
He wrote it, didn't he?
Yeah. So if anyone's going to have he's quite close to production. So, but I'd be interested in seeing
Paul Rudd, of course.
Yes,
in a very early role.
Yeah, playing Tommy.
Yeah,
Tommy
Doyle.
Wallace, wasn't it? Doyle. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, right. Well, we have some feedback this time, and thank you for the people who got back to us after we gave you a roast for not writing in. But
Speaking of which, we should probably play another portion. We have a few more left.
We got 2 more left. This is the penultimate roast.
Let's move on to Justin.
BTK, if you're listening to this, it was really big, wasn't it?
Why, Justin? You sure do curse well. Get it? No? Alright. Yeah, I bought your book, Leave It to America, to fuck up a great title like Teenage Wasteland, the slasher movie book. What's this book about? Fuck, Americans are stupid. I want to move to Europe. Fanny is funnier. You can use cunt left and right. You could smoke a fag inside a bar and then rinse your mouth out and smoke a cigarette.
You can't
Strange
smoke a fag in
sex
a bar.
shop DVD sales, really awesome names like cum bum. Alcoholism is mandatory, and double entendre is the native language. I love it. I do need to talk about Dana Kimmel was here as a roaster. She was scheduled to be, but unfortunately she was put to sleep. Fell asleep. Sorry.
Well, yes. Unfortunately, you can't smoke fags in bars anymore in this country. You can smoke electronic cigarettes in most places still, although apparently the French are going to ban that as well, which is very bizarre. Not very French. And unfortunately, cum bum isn't in Britain. That was in India. But three cocks is in Britain. So.
And Lord Hereford's knob.
And Lord Hereford's knob. And
Grope Cunt, where's that at?
Grope Cunt Lane. That was just down the road from me. But they changed it. These are all
Muff is in Ireland.
Yeah, these are all not middle-aged, they're from the Middle Ages, the names like Grope Cunt Lane, and they changed most of them in the Victorian times to things like,
Field Cunt Lane.
Yeah, Field Cunt Lane, yes, to make it slightly more genteel and British.
Yeah.
So, but I think I've got fairly lightly there. So,
well, he made a very good point too about the fact that they dumbed down the title of your book for America. I'm like, really? I mean, I love the title Teenage Wasteland. I think that's an awesome title. And then it comes over here and it's like the slasher movie book. And I'm like, what a boring title. How dare they change your creativity?
Well, I did say that I'd like to keep it, and they were like, they didn't think that they decided in their wisdom they weren't. So, I mean, what can you do? But
you could throw an Inga hissy fit over the phone to them.
Well, I could have done. Well, I did silently. I was punching my fist in the air or something. Or probably not something very British, and just kind of tutted quite a lot.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, BTK, and we've got one more. But feedback. Do we have an avalanche of feedback?
Yes, we do actually.
Okay. Well, we got 2 voicemails. What do we want to do? Who's got stuff?
I have one.
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, this one comes from Christy. She says, Dear Erik, Joseph, Justin, and Nathan, I just wanted to write in to say thank you for helping me develop an appreciation for the slasher movie genre. I came to Hysteria Continues via your Chopping Mall episode, and lured by everyone's pleasant accents, articulateness... of all the words to stumble on. Articulate.
Oh, Erik.
It's a long word. It's got too many syllables. And desire to go a bit deeper than simple fandom stuck around. I should probably read that sentence again, but I'm not going to in case I'm especially pleased that the Hysteria Continues lacks the casual sexism that seems to plague a lot of movie podcasts.
Well, I hope you still agree with us, Christy,
sorry?
after this one. I hope she still agrees with us after this.
I know, yeah. So far, I've watched about 30 to 40 slasher movies. April Fool's Day, My Bloody Valentine, Black Christmas, and Terror Train are some of my particular favourites, and I've listened to about half of your episodes. There are a few films I would be interested to hear you discuss, like The Eyes of Laura Mars, Models, Faye Dunaway, or Straight Jacket, Joan Crawford, a decapitated Columbia lady, although they may be too campy or not slashery enough to be in your collective wheelhouse. Well, I think if you listen to our back catalogue, nothing is too campy, or nothing can be not slashery enough, if that's the correct way to put it. We have discussed Predator, after all. I would also love to hear a top 3 slasher movie Mimbo list and an interview with Carol J. Clover someday. So I'll just explain here. I did some research. A Mimbo is a male bimbo, which I thought was called a himbo. But, Mimbo, it's from Seinfeld, apparently. Okay. Carol J. Clover is the writer of Men, Women and Chainsaws. And she's a film academic, which, and the word academic, I think, doesn't really fit in with the Hysteria Continues ethos, does it?
No, it does not.
Anyway, Christy has 2 quick questions. Do you remember which episode you discussed Terror Train in? I checked it out because of what you said about it, but I don't recall if you talked about Doc's obvious feelings for Mo, and I'm curious to listen again. Have we done it?
I don't think we've done a full episode on Terror Train.
No, it might have been mentioned in passing as a part of a top 3 or something, maybe. I don't know. Who's Doc and who's Mo? I can't remember those characters from Terror Train.
Hal Faulkner is Doc, and the other guy is Mo.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, Terror Train's one to discuss in the future, I think, because it's certainly a favourite of mine. Yeah. Christy also says, where can I find the fabled Dirty Dancing podcast? Where? I appreciate the hard work and humor you all put into this. Long live the hysteria continues. Sincerely, Christy. Well, the Dirty Dancing podcast might be done with Cinema de Meep and me and another guest presenter, but it's still on the back burner.
Me?
No, not you. You don't know anything about
the
Dirty
voice
Dancing.
of reason. The voice of reason, I think. That's what
No, we don't
in
need a
that.
voice of reason. We need baby lovers and Johnny lovers. This sounds rude.
That does sound rather strange.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, The Eyes of Laura Mars or Straight Jacket. Is Straight Jacket on The Eyes of Laura Mars / Eyes of Laura Mars is? I haven't seen it in a long time.
Well, if we've covered
Jacket
Predator, we can cover those.
Yeah, Straight Jacket.
I've never seen Straight Jacket. What's this about a decapitated Columbia lady?
Well, it opens with the film
Columbia
opens
logo.
with the Columbia logo missing its head.
Really?
Because
cool.
it's Joan Crawford as an axe-wielding axe murderess who goes to the asylum and then comes out 20 or 30 years later, and then the axe murders start up again.
Okay, well,
it's Joan Crawford like playing a psychopath. She's playing very much against type.
Yes,
but it's William Castle as well, so it's quite good fun and it's quite gory for its time.
Yeah, it's
not
fun.
mega gory, but it's there's a few decapitations and stuff like that. And Joan Crawford is wonderful in it. So I'd love to cover that at some time. Maybe we could do a kind of a proto slasher, maybe a double bill with that and something else like Dementia
Dirty
13
Dancing.
or something.
Or Berserk.
Or Berserk, yes. That's another Joan Crawford slasher movie, proto slasher.
Yep.
So, but The Eyes of Laura Mars, is that? I haven't seen that for ages and ages, but that's got kind of that's 78 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And has
John
that got
Carpenter
kind of
scripted this, didn't he?
yeah? So it's got a murderer as well, isn't it? So it's kind of got that slasher-esque feel to it, but I haven't seen it for such a long time.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for ages either, but yeah, it's got models in it. Sounds like something we'd like.
Yeah, excellent. So, right, well, thank you, Christy. Lovely to hear from you, and hope you're still listening to the show after our slightly cheeky episode.
Yeah, I hope you still like our articulateness.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Christy. Who would like to go next? So we've got a voicemail. You're going to go?
I want to go because my connection's bad, and I want to go where you guys can still hear me.
Okay.
Okay. This one says, "Hello all. I sent an email back in June, so have already done the obligatory introductions to myself. Therefore, I wish to cut to the quick and ask what your opinions are concerning two films, one old and one new. If you have already mentioned these, I apologize, and no need to repeat just for me. Number one, Barbarian Sound Studio."
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier.
Yeah, we were, weren't we? Yeah.
Okay. He said, "I saw this film a few days ago, and whilst it is an oddity and the cause of some head scratching, I thought it was memorable. The use of sound is quite extraordinary, and I really felt I was in a studio back in the day whilst a giallo was being made. Not an entirely coherent film, but Toby Jones is possibly one of our best actors today, and I thought the idea was fantastic. And luckily for him, you guys already talked about it. I haven't seen it. Number two, Girly, Mumsy, Nanny, and Sonny from 1970. I saw this film a year ago, having never heard of it. It has elements of slashers to it, and I can only describe it as completely bonkers. It's the kind of film that could only have been made in the post-1960s acid trip era, and we certainly don't make them like this anymore. I think it deserves cult status, and I'm not aware it does. Would love your thoughts anyway. Thank you all, and much love, particularly to Nathan, as his voice and accent are irresistible to me. Michael Tomlinson in London." Woo-hoo. Thank you, Michael.
But not Joseph.
try
You both
with
got
my
the same accent, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got the same accent, so surely you'd love Joseph as well.
Yeah.
No, I think Joseph. I think I have a little bit more of a southern accent than Joseph does.
Like a southern
People
belle.
keep telling me I'm more of a Midwestern accent. I don't get it, but whatever.
Okay. Wow.
Well, I've never seen Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly, or Girly as its other title is.
Yeah,
Have you seen it?
No, I've
it's a
not seen it.
Freddie Francis movie.
I know of it. And is it the one that's got the girl poster, the girl kneeling down, and there's a severed head next to her?
It is indeed, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one I've always kind of fancied seeing, but I've never got around to it. So, but I'm sure I will try and watch it before the next show.
I liked it.
Oh, you seen it?
Yeah, it's a very weird film, but I really liked it. I mean, it's probably not one that I could rewatch, often. I think once was enough for me, but for one watch, I did enjoy it.
Okay. Well, that's good. And we talked about the Barbarian sound studio, didn't we, a bit earlier? And I liked that. I mean, the attention to detail, and it really looked like a 70s film, didn't it? It looked
completely, but I thought the last 20 minutes, I just couldn't make out at all what was going on. I mean, it completely is a head scratcher.
It's just odd, isn't it? That whole we talk about those films that they are just repeating themselves now, but that they are taking the kind of that Italian art house, and then grafting on the giallo look and themes, but not really doing. It's like if you can imagine them doing a slasher movie, a Friday the 13th, but it was all people sat around reading Jean-Paul Sartre or kind of like scratching their beards.
Sartre is smartra.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird, isn't it? Why would you do that to the giallo when the giallo was a pulp populist type of film? It wasn't. It was decidedly non-art house, wasn't it? There's lots of art house in Italian cinema, like Pasolini and people like people like that, or people veer to that side. But the giallo wasn't that, was it? It was experimental, wasn't it, with things like kind of all the kind of strange camera work, and the Argento and Sergio Martino with all the kind of the trippy drug stuff in Torso, and all the colours of the dark and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't. It was never really had art house pretensions, did it? Beyond Argento and maybe some of Fulci's earlier films.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the one I saw last night was kind of like the psychedelic sequences from Lizard in a Woman's Skin or something like that. But that's all there was to it. There was no. It didn't stop to take a breath to show a bit of plot or anything.
Yeah, in some ways, it's almost like making a comedy that hasn't got any jokes in it. That's almost how I liken it. I mean, it's nice to look at, but you just think, well, what is the point ultimately? So yeah. So okay, well, shall we go to a voicemail?
Yes.
And I have a very strangely titled voicemail here called Nathan's Seventh Cousin, so I'm quite intrigued. Here we go.
Hello. This is Nathan's seventh cousin, Jathan. Although I like to think of myself as his third cousin, twice removed. +1. Anyway, I'm just calling to confirm that I do agree with Nathan about Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is an excellent film. I also agree with him about Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. And The Last Slumber Party. And Terror at 10 Killer. And Crazy Fat Ethel 2. On second thought, I'll plead the fifth on that one. Makes me wonder if the other hosts of this great podcast also have seventh cousins who agree with their opinions on films that other people might consider not good. If so, what are their names? I also want to say thank you to Mr. Krug and Mr. Ferrari for being excellent guest hosts, and also that I'm looking forward to the production of The Night Before Easter. So long.
Oh, very mysterious, but I think we recognise that voice.
It was Jathan. I knew that Jathan would not let me down.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew he would call in and stick up for me. And I know that other people don't like those movies that I like, but other people didn't think I could beat out Becky Lehman as president of the Lutheran Sisterhood Gun Club, and I did. It's like Antonine Robin once said, I'm a winner. Nobody can stop me but me.
Well, thank you for that motivational speech.
Do you have any cricket sound effects over there?
No.
Very few people will get the reference that I just did.
What about a tumbleweed?
Unfortunately, no. I need to. My soundboard isn't big enough to cram it all in.
What was your reference, Nathan?
Oh, it was for Drop Dead Gorgeous because I love that movie.
All right.
Well, there you go. There's Nathan's fan club. What would your seventh cousin be called, Erik?
Toya.
Barrick.
Toya?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well.
What would yours be called?
Alexander.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, posh.
Mine would be William, then.
Would it?
Mm-hmm.
What about Joseph?
Hoyt.
Hoyt. Oh, okay.
Who knows? That's my middle name, Hoyt.
Yeah. Who knows? We might have a call in from one of them soon.
Yeah.
So, but thank you, Cabe. Always good to hear from you.
I'm Steven's cousin of Justin.
Cabe has the Saw voice. He's the John Kramer. We're actually going to have him on the show soon. He pledged to be on the show, so it'll be interesting to have the guy from Saw on the show.
We do still really need to do a trailer for other podcasts, don't we? To give to our podcast to promote ourselves, and we still need that voice. I think
definitely, yeah.
Are you eating, Justin?
I've got a pastel in my mouth.
I thought you had something in your mouth. It sounded like you did.
He's bobbing for bananas.
It's a pastel. Sorry, it'll be gone in a minute. I'll swallow.
Okay.
So
waste not, want not.
Exactly. Have we any other to read out?
I have two here. I have, let's see. I'll read one and then you can play another voicemail. But this is from Georgie. He says, "Hey guys, excellent work on the Friday 3D and He Knows You're Alone episodes. I missed the top threes and want to unload onto you as much as I can muster. Top 3 suggestions. Cheesiest sex scenes for episode 69, which we've pretty much covered today. Slashers that have aged poorly. Slashers that have aged well. Shoestring budget slashers. Made-for-TV horror. Direct-to-video slashers. Hollywood films with slasher elements." I think we've done something like that before. I'm not sure. But non-R-rated horror films. Supernatural slasher films. Shot-on-video slashers. Goriest slashers. Slasher characters you want to shag. Disturbing deaths. Stylish deaths. Slasher premises. And then in brackets he says the film doesn't deliver. So I'm assuming he means great premises that don't live up to that. And then he says, finally, horror PSAs, which are public service announcements. And then he caps it off with a big love, Georgie.
Well, thank you, Georgie.
Did you say squirm there for slasher movies that don't live up to their premise?
I said Scream, the 80s one.
Oh, sorry. Oh, right. Jason Takes Manhattan.
That's a
It
good
could be a
one.
good one to do. Well, we did the sex scenes one, didn't we, today? But that's lots of good suggestions, Georgie. So we haven't picked a top 3 for next time, have we? Or are you doing a quiz, Nathan?
I'm doing a quiz for mine, and it's going to be absolutely a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, you'll be
It's
telling
sure
us.
to provide a lot of cheering from some of you and a lot of crying from one of you.
Oh,
shut up. Who. I'm not talking about you.
As long as it's a proper quiz this time and not some psychological torture like the last one was.
It will be a proper
Yes, it's going to be.
Justin.
I know I can trust Nathan. Nathan has an honest face.
You can trust Nathan, Justin.
And just to give you a heads up of the questions, one of them is going to be how many trees do the girls walk past in Halloween?
Okay, well, that's easy.
I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do anything ridiculous like that. But I will say this, because it's close to Halloween, I'm doing one round on Halloween, so you guys need to study that film.
Okay. We will do.
Because you need to know it, because it's going to be detailed questions.
Great. Okay, well, we shall look forward to that. That will be coming up in a couple of weeks. But thank you, Georgie, for some very good suggestions. Shall we go to the next voicemail?
Sure.
Okay.
Hey guys, this is Brandon. I wrote in a few times. It's been a little while, but I had a couple things I wanted to say. I just got finished listening to the last 2 shows, and in the He Knows You're Alone show, Justin mentioned about how he thought He Knows You're Alone was the first fish tank in head scene he could remember. But in 1978's The Silent Partner, the Canadian film, I don't want to give anything away because it's my favorite Canadian movie. It's the only reason I know this. There's a pretty good decapitated head in fish tank scene. That's really all I want to say about that. Other than the silent partner has a connection to cheerleader camp in that Guy Sanvito, who plays the locksmith in The Silent Partner, also plays the neighbor in 1982's Deadly Eyes. And William Johnson, who plays Chef Ronnie in Cheerleader Camp, plays Bob Bailey in 1982's Deadly Games. 2 horror movies from 1982 that have Deadly in the title.
Uncanny.
It's amazing.
Aside from that, in the Candyman podcast, oh yes, in Joseph's quiz, he asked Justin, name a slasher movie from 1983 that has 8 syllables in the title. And I was sitting there saying to myself, Friday the 13th Part 3D. Friday the 13th Part 3D. And then Justin replies with Friday the 13th Part 3. Now I'm wondering if, had Justin said the D at the end, would he then have got a point and it wouldn't have been a shutout for him?
No.
Also, oh yeah, Nathan's little game he has going on Facebook where you try and guess what slasher movie the VHS cover is. I was wondering if maybe, I don't know if this would make for a good top 3 because you wouldn't be able to actually see anything, but I wonder if you did your top 3 favorite VHS covers.
We've done that.
Like I said, maybe you could post them to Facebook then, but
Done that.
I don't know if just describing them would be good enough for a top 3, but anyway, I guess that's it. Gonna go catch up on Halloween 4 and 5 because I'm pretty sure I've only seen each of them once, and that was 10 years ago. So that's all. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay, to answer his question, the artwork was in episode number 16, and it is on the Facebook page if you look for the album and the photos. And as for the quiz, it wasn't a real quiz, and I've learned that you could have also said House on Sorority Row or The House on Sorority Row, and it would have got you a point. But since it was not a real quiz, oh well.
It's what a wicked web of deceit you wove.
Yes.
It was like Donna Mills and Knots Landing is what it was like.
We're still talking about it 2 weeks later.
I know.
Move on. Eric lost. Move on.
Eric won. Move on, Justin. Move on. Get over it.
Yeah, but I think there's something to be said that Eric can only win fake quizzes.
I've won a proper quiz, I'll have you know.
No, that was a setup as well, just to make you feel better. It was. We set it up to make you feel better because people were saying Eric's such a loser, and they couldn't stand the Inga moments any longer. So we threw that bone to you.
Yes.
And you
we
were
took
very
a
glad
dive.
of that
we
bone.
took a dive.
Yeah.
Shut up, smelly Smellerson.
So thank you for being so articulated, Eric. So thank you, Brandon, as well for the voicemail. Yes. I would have won that quiz. Obviously, it'd been a proper quiz. So
yeah,
and I think I would have won that quiz.
Possibly.
I think I won the quiz.
I remember
because I pulled the rug out from underneath all of you, so I won the quiz.
You didn't pull the rug out from underneath Eric; he was in on it.
Exactly. I'm brilliant and I'm sexy.
So, yeah.
That's my.
Do we have any
sound,
more?
by the way.
Any more? Any more for any more?
Yeah, I have one more from Jake the Snake.
Okay.
He says, "Hello, this is Jake the Snake. You may remember me or not. It's been a while since I left feedback for the show. My bad. I want to assure you I have been still listening for sure. This is still one of my top 5 podcasts to listen to every time. I thought now would be a good time to write in because I think the last time I wrote, you were doing the Halloween movies, and also because Beavis laugh. This is episode 69. I do still love 4 and 5, even though they are flawed, mainly Michael's masks. But they have their entertaining moments, and Donald Pleasance is a great presence in these. And in my opinion, the series goes downhill after he dies. Plus some wonderful dialogue in these as well, such as the great line, "It's metal. What does that mean?" Part 4 was robbed at the Oscars that year for sure for best screenwriting. Oh, and shameless plug time. If you want some great commentaries for all the movies except Rob Zombie's, which I'm sure you guys won't mind, and some others, there's a podcast I do called the NFW No Fucking Way podcast with my co-host Newty. It's on the Horrorphilia podcasting network if you want to catch it. And I have a story I wanted to share with you guys ever since it happened. I have a custom-made ringtone on my phone from the movie Pieces that I mostly use for an alarm clock. And yes, it is that famous line. One day at work, I'm sitting there listening to my iPhone, and I'm thinking of playing that just for giggles. And I figured, since I have my headphones on, no one else would be able to hear it. For some reason, that didn't matter. Oops. Next thing I know, the entire office can hear Linda Day George yelling, "Bastard, bastard," and laughing a bit while I'm slumping in my chair, really red-faced. Well, that's all for me. Have a very scary Halloween, everyone. Jake.
Oh, thank you, Jake. And yeah, we'll check out that podcast. That sounds great. It's funny with podcasts. Do any of you other guys, do you listen to podcasts at all?
Yeah,
I listen to. I skim a few, but I mainly listen to Johnny's. Podcast.
I listen to that one, and sometimes I listen to Slasher Studios. And I listen to the Hysteria Continues.
Oh yes, that's the best one.
Yes, I got to get that out of the way. Yeah.
I listen to Johnny's one and also Scream Queens every week. And actually, Patrick's going through it sounds like a movie a day at the moment, but it's pretty funny. And outside the cinema, quite a lot. And also, Night of the Living podcast. I've started listening to.
There's one called Killer POV as well, which I quite like.
Okay.
It comes from Los Angeles, I think.
Okay, and was that a slasher movie one as well?
Yeah, just horror movie, but they have a lot of slasher content. So they did a Friday the 13th episode at one stage, I think, and just that the hosts, one of the hosts is Rebecca something. She writes for Fangoria, and she used to be involved in Fangoria Radio, so she's I suppose what you would call a professional at this. So
okay, like us.
Yes, like us.
Yes. Okay. So, but yeah, if you've got any more suggestions of podcasts, then let us know, because the one I can't remember the name of it now. The one that used to really like the British one doesn't go anymore, does it? What was that?
Which one? Mondo Movie.
Mondo Movie.
Yeah, that used to be really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just kind of.
One of the guys moved to San Francisco, so they're, I suppose.
Speaking of Fango, Justin, did you know that you were mentioned in Fango's article on Night Train to Terror?
Yes, I did. And it's called.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, but we weren't. None of us were mentioned. I don't know why. Yeah, why are you laughing, Joseph? You weren't mentioned.
Yeah, but I don't care. It doesn't matter.
What I care about is that every review calls us a group of bloggers.
Oh, no,
yeah, listen, I have nothing against bloggers. Amanda has a great blog on made-for-TV movies. And I love bloggers, but we're not bloggers. We're podcasters.
Yeah, there's a difference there. You got to do some research now.
Yeah, and I wanted to just say that I exist, Fangoria.
Well, I'm sure they're listening and they're taking note, Erik.
Yeah.
So
they'll call him Derek. Derek from the Hysteria Continues podcast.
Yeah. But hopefully we should have some more news about other commentaries coming up at some point in the near future, and hopefully actually there'll be ones that you could say might be a slightly better fit in a kind of according to what we do cover on this podcast. But we can't say any more. Our lips are sealed.
We are doing a commentary for a Blu-ray release of, I can't say, but it's a movie we have covered in the past.
Yes.
I like you like you were going to announce it, and then you're like, well, never mind.
Yes, we got to keep them waiting and wanting.
Yeah,
isn't that what
treat them mean and keep them keen.
Exactly. So, do we have any more, or are we?
We have BTK's final portion of his roast.
Final roast. Well, here we go. Let's see who survives and what will be left of them.
I'd like to give a shout out to Dan Ferrens. Still waiting on that Super Freddy animated series, buddy. Should probably get to work on that. This just in, apparently Dread Central gives this episode a 0 out of 5. What a surprise. Alright, time for the truth and the mushy stuff. If it wasn't for Hysteria Lives, I wouldn't have found the TBC board, and I wouldn't have found you amazing people. It's been a wonderful 10 plus years, and here's to many, many more. I love you, Justin. I love you, Eric. I love you, Nathan. Thanks, everyone. Good night. I forgot to mention, on the night before Easter Indiegogo campaign, I donated towards the Pick THC episode. And you know what I picked, and what you have to review now. Finally, after all this time, you have to do an entire episode dedicated to the greatest slasher movie ever made.
Bloody murder.
Okay, thanks, bye. Oh, and Joe.
I'm kind of looking forward to it.
I love you, man.
Thanks, Nathan, for talking over that end portion.
See, I think Erik gets abused way too much on this podcast, and you need some abuse yourself.
Hey, I didn't read out the abuse that I got in the email.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was very abusive.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
I know who that's from, so I'm not even going to bother.
Yeah, don't. On the subject of bloody...
I know who you are.
On the subject of bloody murder, I purchased the DVD so that I can watch it in advance for the princely sum of 1 penny.
A penny? Wow.
Yeah, but the postage and packing was £2, but still it only cost me about €3 in total. So
you're going to love it.
Yeah, it's actually called Scream Bloody Murder over here, Justin.
Well, there's this thing about bloody murder. Even Nathan dislikes it, so you know you're in for a world of hurt.
Ouch.
Yeah, but my opinion may change.
Maybe that penny was the penny too much. Then
it might be. Yes. Well, we are. It's not quite the epic that we feared. We're not going to go into 3 hours, I don't think. We are coming probably about 2 3/4 hours, so it's nothing to be sniffed at. Yes. But talking of, nothing to be sniffed at, but should we say what we're covering next time? Nathan, do you want to?
Yes, I picked a rather obscure film from the mid-90s called Crinoline Head. So, people, if you have not seen Crinoline Head, you need to get on that because we're covering it in 2 weeks.
Okay. And you have the interview, don't you?
Yes, I interviewed the writer-director and one of the actors in the film, all in one, Tommy Fairclough.
Okay, excellent.
Who's a really great guy. You know, he's been a really great guy.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I haven't seen the film, so it'd be interesting to watch it.
Neither have I.
So that sounds good. And have you got any updates for the night before Easter?
Let's see. We began filming. We are fully casted. We have a stuntman. We have special effects artist. We have all the equipment. We begin filming November 16th. That's our first day of filming. So, yippee.
And you've got Leslie Donaldson's on board as a producer.
She is a producer, yes. She has helped us out quite a bit. That's all I'll say. And hopefully we're going to, try to sell this. And if we make enough money off of it, we're going to cast Leslie in Gory Graduation as like a stern headmaster of a school or a teacher of some sort. But we want her to do battle with the killer at one point.
Excellent. Oh yes. Well, that would be rather marvelous, wouldn't it?
Because I feel Leslie has been robbed of ever having a good final girl battle with the killer. Because even in the movie where she is a final girl, she doesn't really battle the killer in that movie. She just tries to get away.
Yeah, she lets out a sigh, doesn't she, and falls over. I seem to remember.
So in this one, I want her to be the tough,
I want her to be Leslie in this movie. She is on. I want her to use her Facebook persona because she's so, vicious and brutal but fair and honest. And I want her to be just totally Leslie, not some written character from Funeral Home or whatever.
Well, good luck with that.
Yep.
Yes. So, but very good news. You got Leslie involved, and is there anything else to say? Or are we going to play out with?
Yes, play my special Tina mega mix of the Halloween 5 music.
Yes. Shall we play out with that? So this is going out tonight on Sunday, and it's Halloween on Thursday. So have a safe and happy Halloween. Enjoy lots of horror movies and pumpkins and bobbing for bananas and whatever else you want to do. But so from all of us here at the Hysteria Continues, wishing you all a happy and entertaining Halloween. And see you next time for Crinoline
It will be that one time of the year where I'll eat as much candy as Erik does throughout the year.
Wow.
Yep, you'll get. Yep. You will indeed.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and see you next time.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye to nice people.
Bye.
Bye. Here we go. Here's Eric's Tina Mega Mix.
Okay, woman.
Ba-da-dum-bum-bum.